go. Head On with Bob Kincaid. 3 hours of conversation, cussing, and a discussin' with America's only born and bred Southern liberal talk host. Head On with Bob Kincaid is brought to you each night by Coal River Mountain Watch. Coal River Mountain Watch invites you to become part of the solution, part of a sustainable future, part of the uprising against mountaintop removal. Coal River Mountain Watch, crmw.net. And now, from high in the hills of beautiful West Bicod, Virginia, here's Bob Kincaid on the Head On Radio Network.
Well, howdy. And yes, here we are at week's end, the 23rd day of August 2019. This is The Horn. Headon.live is where you'll find us on the interweb tubes. And I am happy to announce that from here until the final broadcast of August, a week from tonight, we have entered that magical realm known as fundraising-free radio. Yes, yes, yes. Isn't it just magic? It is, it is. Yeah, I just love my little buttons. They're so much fun. Hi, I'm Bob Kincaid, and every program here at The Horn begins with thanks, because that's, you are how the program remains on the air. So thanks go out this evening to our 23rd day of the month subscribers, our friends at Mellow Moonlit Meadow, and our buddy Philip in Maryland, and Stacy, and Bernice. Thank you very kindly, and thanks indeed to Colin, who is a brand new Patreon subscriber. Thank you very much for becoming the happy slightly more than 100 who take care of a week's worth of fundraising each and every month, and as noted, keep the program on the air. It's Friday on the Front Porch. So just as a general reminder, if you'd like to participate in the front porch discussion, then, all you have to do is go to headon.live and click on the Skype link there, and that will immediately put you into the Extraordinary Ordinary Roundtable, the discussion that takes place in the old holler tree we sublet from the Keebler Elves each and every Friday afternoon or evening or whenever it is you're listening to the program. And so we'll get that all going in about 55 minutes or so. And you want to know something really wild? I mean, it's not cause for celebration or anything, but it's not a Naked Radio Friday. It's actually 70 degrees in the studio today. Every season, somewhere along the way, past the midway mark of the season in question, every season drops hints of the season yet to come. And this is that day, at least here in the hills and hollers of almost level West by Coal Trump Tennestan. Because it's probably not 70 degrees outside. We even had flash flood watches earlier today. The clouds have lowered above our housetops, and it's been downright cool. At one point in time, I rather thought it might have, as I was out running around and taking Margie to work and things like that, I was thinking, that maybe long pants would have been a better idea. How about that? But no, it's just a sort of reminder that we just don't have that much summer left, and autumn will find its way to us in almost exactly a month. An official month left of summer. But the part of summer that's September, it'll stay warm, but it's not really going to be right. But then again, I've got my little sound effects buttons here, and I had meant to use the clapping ovation one. I accidentally triggered the laugh track as well, because I was checking earlier to make sure that the laugh track was working, and I got the wrong button again. That's the ovation. Here's the laugh track. And with those merry chuckles, I'll note that as I got up this morning and was engaged in my filthy little habit that begins every day, suddenly I noticed that people around that table, at that table full of multimillionaires, they got a somber look on their face, and Mika looked mournfully into the camera and said, NBC News has just learned of the passing of David Koch. Yeah, I know. It just, yeah. And then they proceeded to chat around the table about what a controversial figure he was, and that while he was a backer of Republican policies, that he was also a donor to healthcare institutions and arts organizations. I dare say the arts had gotten on just fine without David Koch for a few millennia before he was born. The arts will continue to get on without him now that he has gone to see his daddy in hell. But in the short span of time that he was on Earth, he did far more harm to the country than he did good, no matter how many goddamned opera houses he gave money to. And no matter, and see, back in what, 1989, 90, something, ancient history, he contracted prostate cancer, and then all of a sudden, he realized he should be taking some of his ill-gotten gains from his climate-killing business and support some health research. Wouldn't it be nice if just once Republicans could figure out that it's okay to do good before something actually affects them? It's kind of like how Ron and Nancy did everything in their power to slime and sleaze when they weren't just outright ignoring the gay community being slaughtered by HIV in its early days. Ronnie wouldn't even say the word or the no. You know, as an actor, he had worked around the gay community for a generation, but knew that it would be terrible for him to acknowledge that a certain segment of the population was suffering. And so they ignored and tried to keep federal funding away from research to deal with that crisis. But then, when dear Ronnie got Alzheimer's, suddenly Nancy cared about people with Alzheimer's. That's one of those human compassion, human empathy things. The mark of it in its genuine form is that you give a damn before it directly impacts you. Liberals, progressives, decent human beings, we get that. Republicans, not so much. We don't have to have our own children being kept in cages in concentration camps in order to understand that it is wrong, hateful, heinous, wicked, evil, and vile to keep children in cages in concentration camps. Republicans apparently do. I guess under that rubric, if one of Nitwit Nero's children or grandchildren were ever to be, say, put in a cage and kept in a concentration camp, they might, maybe begin to care about sticking children in cages in concentration camps. Steve in New York reminding us Lincoln Center's big theater is the David Koch Theater. And that is sufficient to keep, not that there's any real threat of it, but that would be sufficient to keep me from ever passing through its doorways. What's that? Wait, Bob, says Darlene in Connecticut. You're telling me that all of David Koch's billions didn't buy him immortality? Oh, my God. Who's going to underwrite PBS's Nova program now? Well, unfortunately, Chuck is still around. I don't know if he's going to. And you know what? I wouldn't want to be Chuck Koch right now. Because whoever between those two devils went first, the other one was going to have to sit around and see just how much the world despised them. Charlie Pierce earlier today suggested if there were plans to cremate Dave Koch, that they just go ahead and drop him into the fires in the Amazon. I suggested it would be far more fitting to dump his corpse into one of the toxic waste pits on one of the campuses of one of his climate-killing, climate-frying industries. No, I'm not. No, Nil Nisi Bonum can go suck a dick right now for all I care. Dave Koch in life didn't give a good goddamn about anybody but Dave Koch. And you can bet he took every last tax deduction he could for every penny he gave away. So, no. I come not to praise Dave Koch, but to bury him. Koch, whatever. Scott in San Diego pointing out, according to one news report I saw, David Koch leaves a $50 billion, that's billion with a goddamn B, dollars estate. Any pittance he bestowed upon the arts was probably what he fished out from between his couch cushions. Even if he weren't dead, he'd never miss it. And, of course, because of our fucked up laws regarding inheritance, this means that he just empowers another generation of Kochs to go out and keep fucking America. Because that's what Kochs do. Remember, in terms of the long view of history, once upon a time, Chuck and Dave's daddy, also in the oil business, went all the way over to the then Soviet Union and was happy to do work for none other than Joe Stalin, helping them develop their oil resources. Stalin, of course, a homicidal maniac with the blood of some 15 million of his own countrymen on his hands, in the words of the former dim leader, he killed his own people. But Chuck and Dave's daddy was perfectly okay with that because money. Chuck and Dave's daddy only became a virulent anti-communist when Stalin apparently stiffed him for what he thought he was owed, or some portion of what he thought he was owed. And then he took some of his gajillions, Chuck and Dave's dad did, and backed the rise of a nasty little racist organization called the John Birch Society. The John Birch Society, which declared at one point in time that Dwight David Eisenhower, yes, that Dwight David Eisenhower, was a commie simp and a tool of the Soviets. Everybody, apparently, except the John Birch Society, were communist sympathizers and a tool of the Soviet Union. And Chuck and Dave's daddy got the ball rolling with a big helping of philanthropic cash, for which, of course, he took a hefty tax deduction. And then he shuffled off to hell and left Chuck and Dave, the gajillions. And I think there were some other progeny, and some of them don't actually get along. But Chuck and Dave got enough money to fuck America with. And they rolled up their gajillions into a great big greenback dildo, said lube's too expensive, and proceeded to fuck our country blind with it. So, no kind words for Dave Koch. If there really is an afterlife, and of course there isn't, but if there really is an afterlife, he's getting the reverse pineapple treatment even as we speak. You can almost imagine him, hey, it's kind of warm in here. I thought heaven was supposed to be more comfortable than it. Dave, this isn't heaven. Don't worry. You've got time to never get used to it. Eternity is forever. You know what? That's not a bad suggestion at all. Let's do that. We don't do song requests very often on the program. And our buddy Tom in California says, not that I want the YouTube file to go south, but it would be great to hear that. And I agree. So this is a long-distance dedication going out to Tom in the Bay Area. Well, that populated pretty quickly. I take it a bunch of people must be looking for that today. Yeah.
The wicked old witch at last is
And, you know, Koch or Koch, it works well with that. Ding dong, the Koch is dead, the Koch is dead, the wicked old Koch, the wicked Koch. Ding dong, the wicked Koch is dead. Yeah. Wait a second. If we're going to do this, we may as well do it right. Let's get to the... yes.
As coroner, I must have her. I thoroughly examined her, and she's not only merely dead, she's really most sincerely dead.
Yeah. Had to get to the coroner part. So this morning, when I was engaging in my filthy little habit, the hagiography had already begun. And young Willie Geist, little Willie, well, there's always a loophole. Randy in PA pointing out, dancing on a grave is supposed to be bad luck, but I guess he isn't planted yet. Well, I mean, okay, if the dancing's bad, does it say anything about peeing? But, no, little Willie this morning said, well, it was a controversial figure. He was a champion of Republican causes, but he was personally pro-choice. And that was when I started hooting like a barn owl. For a gajillionaire to be personally pro-choice, but dump godforsaken gobs of money into a political party whose only raison d'etre is to take away a woman's right to choose, that's really not being pro-choice. I was a patron of the arts, and many healthcare facilities bear his name, and he was personally pro-choice. You can stick your personally pro-choice, well, you get the idea. Because if you give money to anti-choice organizations, then your personal pro-choiceness doesn't count for a hill of beans. Ron in Raleigh says, so long, Dave. Dave Koch is dead. To that I say one down, one to go. On the happier note, the indestructible RBG, is still alive. That old girl is tougher than a $2 steak. Viva RBG. Because the news came out today that she is continuing to be she was treated again this summer for pancreatic cancer. And that woman is tough as nails. I mean, she's probably got more starch in her than an entire field of potatoes in Idaho. Bless her, and long life to her. She is hanging on for all she's worth, hoping to carry us over the line in January of 2021. When we get a Democratic president and a Democratic Senate and a Democratic House, and we can begin the work of correcting the Supreme Court. If we are willing to work at it. If we are willing to stop the fucking scab picking. And stop looking backwards at 2016 and look at the dumpster fire that our country is in 2019 and figure out a way to unify and put it out in 2020. Because I bought a not new car not long back, somehow or another, Sirius XM got hold of my phone number. And so it was that I got a call from them earlier today. Had no idea who it was. The phone number didn't say Sirius XM or anything like that. No, in point of fact, it spoofed a West Virginia number. And I know they were spoofing the number because I know for rock solid, dead damn certain that Sirius XM is not headquartered here in West Virginia. I answered the phone and got some dude in a distant foreign land that's probably either on fire or being flooded who asked for me and began to pitch me with the idea of subscribing to SiriusXM. And I said, whoa. And you know, I'm not mean to people on the phone. Everybody got a job to do. Everybody got dinner to fix. Everybody needs $1. But I said, hold on a minute, bub. You're not in West Virginia. He said he wasn't. He agreed. I said, then why am I seeing your phone number show up as a West Virginia phone number? Last I checked, that's called spoofing. And a business that tries to portray itself as legitimate ought not be doing that. And he tried, and the way they're trained, you know, they try to get back onto the script, and he began reading again and said, hold up. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I know you're trying to tell me about your groovy, keen, neato, fantastic, one-time limited introductory offer to get me to subscribe to SiriusXM. But since you spoofed the phone number, I have no way of knowing that you are who you say you are. So I'm going to take a miss on your kind and generous offer. And so I guess we won't be listening to SiriusXM inside the new used car. Because had I agreed to it, God only knows what would it. Was the dude really working for a call center that had contracted with SiriusXM? I have no way of knowing. But also, based on something that I was talking about last night, I'm disinclined to do business with an outfit that pays great horse-gagging amounts of money to someone who is engaged in 2016 scab picking. I'm talking in this instance about Zerlina Maxwell, whose claim to be to being qualified to be the program director of SiriusXM's whatever progressive channel is that she was director of progressive media for Hillary Clinton. I've just got this old-fashioned notion that you should know something about radio if you're going to run a radio station. I actually had some real-world experience with it way long time ago because a wealthy person in my hometown area had given a respectable AM/FM combo to his otherwise unqualified daughter to play with. And she didn't know programming top 40 from programming talk. And we were running both formats. And she didn't know anything about either one of them. And it did not work out well for the station. She ran it into the dirt. Or, to stay with a metaphor that has had more than a little bit of relevance in this particular month, she ran it into a ditch. So, yeah, I guess they're going to have to figure out a way to get along without SiriusXM in the new used hoopty. Note coming from Steve Not in China on the West Coast. Body bag, XXXL. That fat dude's long overdue dying. I didn't even bother clicking on it when I saw the past tense out of the corner of my bad eye. Fuck him and happy nights in hell. This goes for all of them. Good for fertilizer. Beyond that, turn them to dog food and feed a hungry world. I'm dead serious. It's a patriotic duty to hate and want to see extinct these sick bastards. Given the state of the working person's plight, where's the patronage from these bloated beasts? They've reduced our entire government to a lordship over the peasantry, after all. Regards, Steve on the West Coast. A member, by the way, of the fraternity of Steve. I didn't know anything about that. Randy in PA offers a helpful hint. It is relatively easy to get off their lists. You just say to them, by the way, you may be on a recorded line, which is technically no lie. And that makes them disappear like telling a Jehovah's Witness that you're Roman Catholic? It's that easy? I'll deploy that next time. Ron in Raleigh says, your friend and mine, Chuck Schumer, would probably like to look into that phone call as part of his pogrom against robocalls. Now, as far as RBG is concerned, if and when she goes on to her long home, they might want to grind her up to use as a cancer cure. Because she's beaten the hell out of it. She damn sure has. And here's hoping that doesn't happen anytime soon because, well, in the not-too-distant past, Moscow Mitch laughed when he said that if he got another opening in an election year, by God, he'd fill it. Because all that business about we can't be filling and he admitted that all that, it was just a bunch of bullshit. That stuff that, about not filling a Supreme Court seat in an election year. That was just an excuse to make sure that Barack Obama remained cognizant of the fact that he was only 3/5 of a president. Good luck, RBG. Stick with it. Stay with us. What stands out in my mind, says Darlene in Connecticut, is David Koch boogieing, dancing at the RNC for Romney in 2012. Yuck. Oh, that's enough to put me off supper. Good thing I already had it. Found out something wonderful today. We now have, over across the river in Fayetteville, we now have a place called Kobe Asian Fusion. They got some Chinese stuff on the menu. They do sushi. They do Thai. And they do Japanese. And so I was feeling rather peckish around the noon hour, having been running errands for a little bit. And like I said, it was downright autumnal today. Clouds right down on top of the hills, periodically pouring the rain. And something in me said, hey, Bob, this is ramen weather. And so, filled with hope, I walked in, got the menu, and looked in there, and son of a gun, yes, they had a spicy ramen bowl with lots of roasted pork belly and vegetables and seaweed and that beautiful pork bone broth. Ooh-wee! And even though they weren't freshly made, lovely noodles. And it was so far above okay. You know, until recently, our only Asian restaurant across the river has been that place known as OK Chinese. And trust me, they're gilding the lily when they say that it's okay. Because it's tolerable at best. Oh, but this stuff was good. Margie was getting off work, and so I was there to pick her up. And she said, "Come get me, Daddy." And I said, "No, walk down the sidewalk, and we're having lunch." And it was a big piping hot bowl of ramen with all of those different flavors. A little bit of chili sauce on one side, that beautiful semi-soft boiled half an egg. I don't know why you only get half an egg. That should be a give me the whole egg kind of, but nonetheless. And it was delightful. I told them it was so good it was almost enough to make me look forward to winter. Because, say, long about late January, early February, a piping hot bowl of that ramen will it'll warm you all the way to the marrow of your bones and from the top of your head down to your toenails. Felt like a real cultural victory. And, of course, it could only happen in the cool, hip, happening little tourist zone that I happen to live in. So, thanks, Kobe Asian Fusion. You did a good job today. And I've even, Margie had some leftover rice, and I had some leftover broth. So we combined the two in a to-go bowl, and that's tonight's post-program snack. So let's try not to ruin my appetite anymore, if that's okay. Okay? Yeah. So I think maybe now I've got the Chuck and Dave out of my system, which is, without a doubt, a good thing. And where once upon a time we kind of used Friday on the Front Porch to clear the leftovers out of the stack, there's never any leftovers anymore. It's just a season in hell, and there's a fresh hell to deal with each and every day. So, since we touched on the right to choose in regard to Dave Koch going to his long home, how about a little choice news? The other day, I mentioned that Tennestan has largely flown under the radar with its attempt to defeat a woman's right to choose and take away from her a constitutional right, a constitutional right that is held by every woman in this country and is co-equal with any other constitutional right, like, say, the right to keep and arm bears. Yes. Breaking news, says Billable Rick. Bob. Ooh, he's really full of his oats after the Stones concert. It's just been reported that David Koch is still dead, along with Generalissimo Francisco Franco. Yeah, it's worth a little jingle. Rick reminding me earlier. I'm pleased to report that the Stones concert at the Rose Bowl last night was effing awesome. The further good news is that despite my presence at the show, all of the boys are still alive, including the still undead Keith Richards, who is obviously pumped full of formaldehyde. I've concluded that Keith, Mick, Charlie, and Ron also can't be killed, and they'll continue rocking on through mid-century. In listening to your program last night, however, I observed many members of the audience shooting up the marijuanas. However, for some reason, try as I might, I couldn't find any of the used needles in the detritus at the stadium. Also, I was actually able to smell the marijuanas, which is puzzling given that it is an injected drug, at least according to that Fox News asshat reporting from San Francisco that you featured last night. I've never actually been able to smell injected marijuanas. What gives? My head hurts. I better stop. Billable Rick. Well, when you go to cook the marijuanas in the spoon, Rick, that's when it gives off its signature skunk-like scent. Or maybe, it was the Rose Bowl. It's an open-air stadium. There's still a little bit of nature left in Southern California. So maybe there was an actual skunk in the Rose Bowl. Who knows? Maybe the skunk was part of the backup vocalists. Did you check? I'll bet you didn't. You were busy shielding your Mickle powers from having any impact on Mick and the boys. Yeah, that was for the ages. And still no reports from any of the Horn family community congregation members in the San Francisco Bay Area about the tsunami of dew that apparently is just rolling up and down the streets. And no. That scatological fetish in the Republican Party is just something. But anyway, like I said, Tennestan has largely gotten to fly under the radar with their Alabama and Ohio-esque attempt to take a constitutional right from more than half the people in this country. And I guess it's because the Tennestan legislature can't formally take up the bill in terms of voting it through both houses until the 2020 session. Now, the MAGAT in question is, and we had audio from him a couple of days ago. Maybe it was Tuesday. The MAGAT in question is State Senator Mark Pody, P-O-D-Y. And his amendment would ban abortion after 6 weeks gestation. In other words, before a woman can even know she's pregnant. It didn't get the legislature. Like I said, it didn't get passed. But like a bad penny, it'll be back. The Tennestan legislature comes back into session in January of next year. And this is a whopper of a bill, because it even bans Plan B, certain intrauterine devices, because they technically, I guess, keep a fertilized egg from implanting in the uterine wall. And central to Senator Mark Pody's amendment is the following little notion. That a fertilized ovum, not even yet a blastocyst, is viable outside the womb. Now, I realize this isn't quite as hilarious as the Republican strategist talking about shooting up the marijuanas on the doo-doo-filled streets of San Francisco. But it's pretty outrageous. That's right. Before cell division has even taken place, Senator Mark Pody of Tennestan thinks that you can take an egg and a sperm that have joined together out for a little stroll around the block. Because, you see, viability means able to survive outside the womb. And Mark Pody says that every fertilized egg is viable. When an argument can be made that he himself is living proof that that ain't necessarily so. Because, you see, when you're a Republican, you don't have to actually deal with you don't have to be scientifically, never mind politically correct, scientifically correct. They're not interested in that either. You can ignore the science of climate change and blame it on volcanoes and sunspots. You can say that 97% of your scientists say climate change is real, but that 97% of Republican scientists certainly don't. When there is no actual Republican or Democrat inside, science. So you just declare that all fetuses that aren't even yet fetuses, I mean, we're talking about before they even get to the stage where they look like a fucking sea monkey, are viable. Maybe over the weekend I'll look into a little more about who Mark Pody is and what benighted pile of corn shucks of a town he comes from. What a piece of work. And Pody's amendment actually says that, a fetus is viable at conception. It would ban abortions when a viable pregnancy is presumed to exist or has been confirmed. We're moving into the realm of presumptive pregnancy. The legal scholars in the community will shudder when I say that the next step from that is constructive pregnancy. Courts aren't crazy about constructive this or constructive that because it means it's something that doesn't actually exist, except in theory, in the mind of the lawyer putting the argument forward. Yeah, in this case, every woman of childbearing age would be constructively pregnant. Because, she might get pregnant. And ultimately, that's what these Republican-style abortion bans, funded by the pro-choice David Koch, it's a real knee slapper, would do. And they think that you can detect a pregnancy through a fetal heartbeat, even though the fetal heart is not developed until the end of the second trimester. Through the magic of the Jesusoscope, I guess Republicans can determine a heartbeat where no heart exists. God help us all. They're very, very special, these Republican faith-based science types. Oh, and speaking of which, there's been an arrest in Tennestan. This is not the Tennestan Friday on the Front Porch. It just sometimes these things work together. Yeah. Arrest in Tennestan. 3 people have been arrested. The latest on the 13th of August, Jacob Cooper, aged 20. And before I give the name of the website, we have to understand that these domestic right-wing terrorists use various platforms for spreading their terrorist ideas. And so in this particular case, Jacob Cooper, aged 20, a white male from Tennestan, went to iFunny. The letter I, funny. And there, he posted a message and said, "Make sure you tell them about how I plan to shoot up a Planned Parenthood facility in Washington, D.C. on August 19th at 3 p.m. Yeah. And then, doubling down, he added in a second message, "If you are a member of the FBI, CIA, whatever, and are on my profile, I will trace your IP address and kill you if the opportunity arises. And I am dead serious about this. I'll do it with ricin, a bomb, or a 308, whatever it takes. The end result will be the same. I'm serious about this. If I'm personally contacted by any federal agents, I will do this. I will kill you. Again, I am serious. Sic semper tyrannis." That's just one of 3. When people say something like, my position is, when they tell you who they are, you best by God believe them. Oh, and dovetailing with what the director of the FBI said recently, namely that half or more of all domestic terrorism in this country comes from white nationalists, white supremacists, MAGATs, Trump supporters. Well, the National Abortion Federation out of D.C. said that threats against abortion clinics hit a record high last year. They said there were 1,369 violent acts against member clinics in 2018. That's almost 300 more than there were in 2017. Now, those are threats of violence. Or not threats, but actual violent acts. It doesn't include hate mail and obstruction and those precious defenders of fetuses who torment women going into the clinic to get a pap smear or a mammogram. No, because that kind of behavior topped out north of 100,000 in 2018. Because like anything else Republicans engage in, the anti-abortion industry is a capitalist undertaking. There's big money involved. And so when you're out there trying to gin up that big money, you got to get people really worked up. And when you get them really worked up, they're going to engage in 100,000 separate attempts, 100,000 separate examples of hate mail and tormenting. So in addition to the Tennestan kid, there was Justin Olson, 18 years old, from Ohio. He posted threats against abortion providers on iFunny. One of the things that he posted was a picture of a man shooting guns. And he captioned it, "Me walking into the nearest Planned Parenthood." Now that homicidal creep, Trump supporter, said, "Oh, I was only joking." But when the authorities went to his domicile, they found 15 rifles, 10 semi-automatic pistols, and 10,000 rounds of ammunition. Some joke. Where does an 18-year-old get 15 rifles, 10 semi-automatic pistols, and 10,000 rounds of ammunition? And then, in a case that will maybe actually get some right-wing attention, when Olson got busted, a guy named Farhan Sheikh threatened a Planned Parenthood in Illinois just earlier this week. He's 19 years old, lives in the Chicago area, and said, "I am done with my state and their bullshit abortion laws and allowing innocent kids to be slaughtered for the so-called woman's right bullshit. I've seen nothing but whores go out of the way to get an abortion, but no more. I will proceed to slaughter and murder any doctor, patient, or visitor I see in the area, and I will not back down." He got taken down for transmitting a threat in interstate commerce. And faces 5 years in the stir for it. Like I said, the last one, Farhan Sheikh, the Republicans might notice that one. I have no idea why they would notice that instead of a guy named Olson or a guy named Cooper, but I'm just guessing they might. So that's just a few things to possibly chat and confabulate about. Let's run over to the Skype line and check in with Sparky. Hey, Sparky.
How you doing, Bob?
Pretty good. It's nice not to be just, baking here in the fabulous Horn Studios at the magnificent Kincaid Mansion.
Oh, well, it's 101 here today. Yesterday, the North State had a visitor.
Yes?
Bernie went to Paradise, and then had a town hall climate change meeting in Chico, where he announced his climate plan, I do believe.
Yeah, and then I can't. You know, he's crisscrossing the country because he came to Morgantown today, I believe.
Well, he's supposed to have been in San Francisco today too.
You think they've cloned him, and there are multiple Bernies campaigning now?
No, I can just see him running through airports, catching planes.
Pretty much. So, did you go?
No, I didn't know about it until it come up on my computer. On YouTube, it streamed live, his deal in Chico.
Well,
then I found out he'd been in Paradise that morning.
Morgantown's a good 3 hours, so 6 hours up and back. I decided I would just read about it.
Anyway, there's no dump trucks coming through town anymore.
Wow, really? I thought that was supposed to go on for a while.
Well, there's a south dump too. I don't know if they're still dumping at the south dump, which is down in Wheatland, California. They may have cut them off up here in Anderson.
Got too much stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it has to catch up with it and do whatever they're going to do to make it a landfill.
I have a feeling after they get done, they're going to have to build a couple more.
Well, we had another fire northwest of Redding happen yesterday. I don't know what the word on is yet, but all I know is the smoke's not blowing this way, because I went to town today and got on the freeway, and I could see Mount Shasta not clear as a bell, but I could see it.
I was going to ask you if what's the snowpack look like on Lassen about now?
Oh, Lassen's, it's all that's left is where the glacier was, or one of the lava flows which filled in as a glacier for years and years. But there's a line on Lassen, but Shasta's got is pretty patchy now too, because the south side melts off pretty quick. That's the side I live on.
So when will you start? When will the snow start to fly up there?
Oh, maybe November, December.
You know, I was. I don't know if you were still tuned in the other night because I ran it kind of early in the program, but that happy little that decent little clip of the guy with the thick Chicago accent trying to save that coyote pup. Did you hear that?
Yeah, that was up in Siskiyou County.
Is that where that was?
Yeah, it's up by the Oregon border. It's the first county as you're coming south out of Oregon.
Well, I went and started watching some of his other videos, and his account. And I mention this because he's really, really good. His account name on YouTube is Botany Doesn't Pay But Crime Does, which I thought was kind of humorous. And it's obvious that the guy is a really talented botanist. And he was somewhere in July in Northern California in this huge lava field. And he explained the geology of lava flows and how basalt forms versus how pumice forms and obsidian, volcanic glass.
Was it just kind of lava beds that went on and on?
Well, there was some light. There was a mountain-ish thing that was the cone that had blown eons ago and put out all the lava. There were a lot of evergreens, but he said it was like around 6,500 feet or more above mean sea level. But it was at the point. It was absolutely fascinating. But I figured that had to be somewhere north of you.
Yeah, well, there's the lava beds state area, park area, or whatever. It's up around Tule Lake, where the Japanese internment camp was during the war. It's north of that though, but it's right in that area. It's where the famous Modoc Indian tribe made its last stand in the lava bed, Captain Jack. And I forget the general.
Oh, I need to look that up. I need to look that up and learn about it.
Yeah, just Google Captain Jack and the lava beds or something like that. Sure, it'll come up.
But he really knew his stuff, because he was calling out genus and species on all these little plants that were growing in among the among the cracks in the rock and stuff. And then I found another one. Agnes and I were just watching videos one by one. He shot another video down in a wash in what is it, the Chiricahua National Monument in Arizona, and was pointing out all the life and how those massive stands of eroded rock had come into being. But one of the best parts is when he was in the lot, he found this huge extrusion of volcanic glass, and that thick accent he has. See, some asshole tried to carve his name into the rock, and this shit's so sharp he got himself cut, stupid fucker. And sure enough, you could see where they'd tried to write their name, and then down on the rock below was a drop of blood. People. But again, the name of the YouTube channel is Botany Doesn't Pay But Crime Does. And by the way, there's a follow-up to the Coyote Pup story. The Coyote Pup didn't make it. And I guess the guy got... Go ahead.
I saw pictures of him. He didn't look in too good a shape. No.
But he made the a decent effort, and that was what was kind of inspiring about it. But apparently he didn't care for the fact that it got tweeted around, and so, I thought it was, just a lovely example of sort of the best of trying to be a decent human being on the planet.
Yeah, I looked that up. It's called Captain Jack Stronghold. It's part of Lava Beds National Monument. It's between Tule Lake and Canby. Okay, yeah, I know what it's at.
Well, it wasn't what you would typically say is beautiful, but it was majestic as all hell. And he was pointing out that the lava flow itself probably not 9,000-10,000 years old. And so a lot of life hasn't yet come in around it. But for folks looking for something, well, I hate to say educational because that puts people off, but informative, that's a damn fine series of videos to check out. He's really good and really smart.
There sure is a lot of places to check out up that country. Cowgirl lives up in that, well, not far from there.
Yeah, because I think they go into Oregon for most of their shopping and stuff. Because they're nearer to...
Klamath Falls, probably.
Yeah, Klamath Falls than they are to any major population center in California. Pretty country.
It's different.
Of course, that's state of Jefferson country, too, isn't it? I mean, it's not not Jefferson per se, but I mean, that's part of that contiguous area of right-wing cranks.
Yeah, it kind of had its birthing place up in there in Siskiyou County. Even back in the old 40s version.
Well, let's check in with Billable Rick and find out. And I'm just itching to hear about the Stones.
Oh, Bob, it was tremendous. I thought they put on a good show at the Desert Trip 3 falls ago in 2016, but boy, oh boy, these guys just know how to bring it. It's the best damn rock and roll band ever. I'm so glad I went. It was kind of a last minute call. I got tickets like the day before the event. I guess I was motivated by the something I saw online. Somebody had actually recorded the entire concert 2 hours plus at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey. And I think this show was even better. It was kind of funny at the Jersey show. What they're doing on this tour, it's a big stadium tour. And I think it was originally scheduled like in May, but because Mick had his heart issue, they had to reschedule these dates for August. And this show at the Rose Bowl was to have been in like May 12th. But going back to the New Jersey show, what they're doing on this tour is they basically have a number of songs that the audience gets to choose what they want to hear. Not like instantaneously, but like I think you probably go to their website and they offer you a few songs and you choose. Each concert city gets to choose what song they want to hear. And the one in New Jersey chose "She's a Rainbow," and it was kind of funny.
You don't even know my IP address.
Are you guys there?
Yeah, you're there.
Oh, I heard Sparky. Okay. Anyway, Mick starts by saying, when was the song written? Oh, I think we did this in like 1965. I don't think I've played it since then. How does it start? And it turns out the show in L.A., that was the exact song that the Angelinos chose the Stones to play. So, I tell you, lots and lots of people shooting the marijuanas. I mean, I was so, taken aback by it, Bob. I was just, fit to be tied, You know how I am about that stuff.
She's a Rainbow, 10,000 Light Years from Home. That's all Brian Jones stuff.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Good stuff. All that trippy Stones, yeah, that's all him, man.
Yeah, but it was...
good stuff, yeah.
And the coolest part is Brian Jones is dead, so they don't have to pay royalties.
He's been gone for a while, hasn't he, Bob?
Yeah, not even his family members.
Mick is the consummate businessman.
Oh, God. He attended the London School of Economics, as you know.
and he says things like... And he says things like, "Do you want a quesadilla?"
Oh, just a second, Scotty. Speaking of food, the food porn part of it is he talked about how they were trying to get into Spago in Hollywood before the show, and there just wasn't enough time, so they had to bring Wolfgang Puck with them, who was cooking shepherd's pie backstage for them. So that's what they had after the show.
Because shepherd's pie is the key to their longevity.
I think so. I don't think it's the formaldehyde or the good drugs or anything like that. So Scott wanted to ask me something.
I mean that is the life. I mean, when you think about it, to have worldwide acclaim at that age and have Wolfgang Puck in the back of the bus whipping up batches of shepherd's pie. I mean, that's living.
Boss, you're talking about a Gulfstream 5, I think, Scott.
Yeah.
Well, okay, yeah.
It just doesn't get any better than that, boys.
But,
I'll tell you what. Man.
What I was going to ask you is that the...
Excuse me. Did you guys hear me talking on the phone?
Yes.
Yeah, I've heard something, Sparky. Yeah.
About an IP address or something. No big deal, bro.
Yeah, it was one of them scammer calls, so I had to screw with him.
Oh, jeez.
Because
Perfect timing.
I got a vast VPN it'll show you your IP address. I said, okay, tell me what my IP address is on my computer. And he rattled off this number, and I said, you got the wrong number, man. Okay.
Going back to the concert, boy, I tell you, the traffic, it took us, I had to leave work. I left work too late. I left work at like 4:15, got to Stars at like maybe 5 o'clock. We didn't leave her place till 5:15 to pick up my son in La Crescenta. So it took us, it's only 50 miles from, between those 2 points. It took us like 2 hours to go 50 miles.
On the 6 and 7/8?
We were trying the 6 and 7/8. We were getting off the 6 and 7/8 to try to get on to
the 9 and 5/16, right? Yes.
Well, we were trying surface streets like Bumfuck Road and Dead Zone Avenue and what have you, and we just couldn't. No matter where we went, we were hitting traffic, and so we just sort of figured, okay, we'll get back on the 9 and 6, 7/8 freeway. But there were crashes all on the north-south freeways. I have to go like 50 miles north to go from Star's place to my place, pick up my son. And it was just like traffic jams all over the place. And then
next time, take the Slauson cutoff, but don't cut off your Slauson, and keep going until you get to the fork in the road. Anyway, go ahead.
And take it. So then we arrived at my son's place, or my house, and we drove him to the Rose Bowl, and it was tough getting in there. And so, we actually missed the introduction of the Rolling Stones. Apparently, Robert Downey Jr. introduced them to the stage.
Wow!
And just as we were getting in and trying to find our seats, they started they started to play, and I asked like one of the, people there, hey, where's my seat? And he said something like, well, there's only 2 of us and there's thousands of people. I have no idea. It's like he was absolutely of no use. So we were kind of on our own there, but it was a great show. I have no complaints except for all the fees they added on to my ticket price. $200 of fees plus the ticket price.
Jesus, that was just the fees?
$200 for the fees. Yes, exactly.
Holy shit.
Yeah, ridiculous.
Well, Darlene in Connecticut is green with envy. Billable Rick got to see the Stones. That is epic.
Yeah.
It wasn't just the Stones. It was the Rolling Stones 2019 Heart Valve Warranty Tour.
There you go. So, no filter, they call it.
Brought to you by Big Pharma.
Yeah.
And your latest breathing apparatus.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It's kind of funny how Mick put it. He said, well, sorry that a few songs into the act, he basically said, sorry that we had to reschedule, but those things happen. It's like, dude, don't apologize. It's like you're like what 70, 75 going on, I don't know, 100. The fact that you can, and the guy just still prances around that stage and runs around. The guy's like got so much energy. It's amazing. I mean, it's really infectious. They sang basically, pretty much all of their hits.
So what did they encore with?
Let's see, what the hell was it here? Let me go to set list here. I always have a hard time remembering the songs here. Let's see here. Was it Street Fight? Let's see here. I Can't Get No Set List. Here's the set list. Give Me Shelter and I Can't Get No Satisfaction were the 2 encore songs. Yeah.
They did too. Wow.
Yeah, they did too. They played a couple of Keith's songs that I think he did individually. I'm trying to think here what they were here. Let's see here.
Yeah, did they jam them or they just rushed through them,
Oh, no, they took their time.
They jammed them. That's cool.
It was jams. We're talking like sometimes 10-minute songs or whatever,
Yeah.
The backup singers were really good, and the backup pianists were really good, and
That's what smart musicians will do. Is they'll bring backup bands that will lift them up and make them sound good.
Right. Yeah. After about what number of song was that? After Mick sang "Sympathy for the Devil" and "Honky Tonk Women," and that was like he was into like his 10th song by then. He had to take a little break. You didn't see him for a while, and then Keith came out there with his guitar and sang a couple of his songs. "You Got the Silver."
Yeah, when you say "Honky Tonk Woman," do you mean country honk or the rock and roll version? There's two versions of that.
Kind of a mixture, Steve. I would say kind of a mix of it. It was great. Yeah. And so after "Honky Tonk Woman," I mean, Mick had been singing for like 10 songs, and he needed a break apparently. So Keith got out and did "You Got the Silver" and "Before They Make Me Run." And a lot of folks don't know this, but Mick actually, both Mick and Keith tried to go solo for a while. At least they had solo projects.
They did.
And Keith's were actually quite a bit more successful, is my understanding. Mick's weren't so successful, which is kind of strange because you think, Mick's got the voice and so forth. But, Keith has really got a very soulful voice, I would call it, when he does his singing.
Mick sang backup on "You're So Vain" with Carly Simon, which, rumor has it could have been written about him or Warren Beatty.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah. Who knows? But he did sing backup vocals on that. You could hear him.
Yeah. But I mean, the really cool thing is it's like the mixture of ages was amazing. I mean, people of all, color, shapes, sizes, whatever. And, these guys are timeless. It really is amazing, the music. It's like, they mix, he'll sing an 80s song like "Start Me Up." And then he'll jump into like "Jumping Jack Flash" after that, which is a 60s anthem.
"Waiting on a Friend," did they cover that one? Or
no, they didn't do "Waiting on a Friend." They did do "Midnight Rambler." That went on for a long time. That was really
great
good.
Song. Yeah, they could stretch that one out.
So in a stadium environment like that, was the audio good?
Oh God, Bob, it was tremendous. Yeah, the audio was good. They had like 4 50-foot screens set up, rectangles set on their on their long side. Okay.
Probably just racks and racks of PV amps too.
Yeah. And when I got the tickets, I was concerned because it said it might be partially obstructed. And I was like I said, I was sitting at like.
Great, I'm going to look at a pole all night.
Well, that was what it was. It was a pole for the sound system, but it did not obstruct my vision because it wasn't like directly in front of me. I was off to the side of it, like at 5 o'clock position, and the pole was like at the 6 o'clock position in relation to the stage being 12 o'clock. And so it was a good view. The only problem I had is the stage kind of came out down the center, from there was like there was a walkway that led out maybe to, let's say, maybe what would be the 20 or 30 yard line of the field where they sang a few songs, maybe 5 songs. And at that point, all I could see blurs of them. Cut the lights reflecting and stuff. It was kind of hard with the pole being in the way, and so I just looked at the big jumbo screens. But check it out. There's all sorts of stuff on YouTube for those folks who haven't been able to see a concert. There was, like I said, there was a guy who recorded the whole concert in New Jersey.
Total cost per ticket, Rick, what would you say? Ballpark, $300 or?
I paid $261 per 3 tickets, and so you figure all the fees there, divide 200 by 3, and you get about $70 added on to each ticket.
Sounds about right.
Fees. Yeah. Yeah.
They're not $5 anymore.
Well, I got a cowbell.
They actually did that song.
I got a cowbell for Steve in New York, who noted, "They may fall, but they can, in fact, get up."
That's right. Yeah, they did an acoustic set as well at what they called the B stage. That was in the center, towards the center of the stadium. Sweet Virginia and Dead Flowers. So they did all in all, like probably.
Oh, I love Dead Flowers off Sticky Fingers. We used to cover that one, man.
Oh,
What a
yeah.
great song. Yeah.
It is. It is. They sang.
It's not hard to play either. It's really not.
No, they also sang 2120 South Michigan Avenue, and it says from a tape. I don't know what that means exactly. I'm not sure what the hell that is. 2120 South Michigan Avenue.
I've heard REO do 157 Riverside Avenue, but
yeah, me too. Yeah. So I'm not sure. Maybe that was just the song that played in the background. That was like the sixth song, but I don't know. Who knows? But they hadn't been at the Rose Bowl for like 25 years. They last were there in 1994, and I missed them then. And so I figured, I was watching like the YouTube concert. It's like, wait a second, I've watched 25 minutes of this thing. If I'm going to go to the show, why do I want to listen to any more of this? I want to see it live. And so I said, fuck it, I'm going to just go and see if I can get some tickets for, decent seats that aren't like, really expensive. And I started looking on Ticketmaster, and they had seats that apparently were available, but when you'd click on them, they'd say, sorry, another fan beat you to it. So I said, okay, this is bogus. I'm going to go to a real resale, market, which is, in my case, it was StubHub. And I just got it through them.
Hey, we got a trivia question coming in from Ron in Raleigh.
All right.
The Stones are the second longest running rock band. Who are the longest running rock band?
I know that. Can I answer?
You can try.
Procol Harum.
I was thinking it was embedded in Ron's message. Listen again. The Stones are the second longest running rock band. Who are the longest running rock band?
The Who. Oh,
The Who.
The Who? Really?
Yeah.
What's that?
Maybe I'm wrong. I just that looked like an Easter egg inside.
Maybe
inside Ron's note.
Ron. I gotta Google this here.
Speaking of old white people singing,
yeah,
I'm gonna go see Cher tonight.
Yeah.
Oh, Tracy, how are you?
I'm good. Hi.
Cool.
Hey. Yep. So I'm in Vegas. I'm in my room, and I'm like, yeah, I'm chilling. Jan's still downstairs. Actually, we've been doing pretty good, but I'm like, okay, I'm just chill. I want to come up and rest. And I looked at the clock, and I'm like, oh, look, it's Friday-on-the-Front-Porch time, and I can stay on the phone until Jan comes back up to the room.
Yay!
Yay!
So is Jan down gambling?
She's been hitting hard. She's been doing really good. She hit like a $500 jackpot on slots and all sorts of stuff. So and I'm holding my own, but it's you haven't hit the royal flush yet. No. Because if I hit that and speak with that, because I play if I hit that because I play the progressive, that's $1 million. That's not what your hand wins. That's just if you play the progressive. And right now it's at 1.5 million, I think, if somebody hits the royal flush. And that's at all the Caesars properties. It doesn't matter which Caesars it is. That's just a progressive. I don't know if it's just Caesars in Vegas, or Caesars or Harrah's all over. But right now it's at 1.5 million. But yeah, no, Vegas is fun. I basically come to chill and eat and all that good stuff.
Yeah. So did you save up your random points?
Yes, I did. We were supposed to be going to this really cool Italian restaurant tonight for dinner, but we got a late start. I went to my Weight Watchers meeting, and this is the first time in the 11 weeks, I guess I've been on Weight Watchers, 11 or 12 weeks, that I did not lose weight. I gained a half an ounce. No, 6 ounces or something like that. So, but I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that I've been drinking a ton of water since I've been here. Because, yes, LA is a desert, but this is a whole different kind of fucking heat. And so I've been drinking a shit ton of water. Plus, they say because I worked out before, and I typically work out in the mornings, but I got a late start this morning. I didn't get up until 6:15, and I didn't get into the gym until like 6:30, 7, and the Weight Watchers meeting was at 9:30. So whatever I worked out and all that, I think I still was holding on to some water. So whatever, I'll be fine by next week.
Well, brother Deacon Asa likes to run down to Vegas from time to time, and he'd like to know where you're staying.
We stay at the Paris. Because since since I gamble, I can stay at any Harris property or Caesar's property. And we've stayed so far in Vegas. We've stayed at the Flamingo. We've stayed at Harris. We've stayed at the Link. We stayed at the Cromwell and Paris. We like Paris. The gambling sucks here, but the hotel is great.
I'm just curious. In 2019, what's the cheapest hand of blackjack you can get into?
Depending on where you go, but you could do like a $10 hand. It's like $10 here at some of the tables. I mean, it could go up to $25. But see, I don't play blackjack, so I don't care. But like where I play Mississippi Stud, and the minimums usually here are $5. $5 ante. So there's still such a thing as a $5 table. So. Yeah, but no, it's been a great weekend. We just, we got here yesterday and we leave Sunday. And tomorrow we're considering going to see Michael Jackson's One. Has anybody seen that? The Cirque du Soleil show? Michael Jackson's Cirque du Soleil show. So we're probably going to go see that tomorrow. But I'm kind of excited about Cher. I mean.
Well, hell yeah.
The woman is 73 years old, and apparently she could still wear all of her outfits. I guess the song, the outfit she wore in "If I Can Turn Back Time."
Oh dear.
She wears that in. 73 years old, and she can still get into that outfit, man. But no, it's and it hasn't been that hot. I mean, it's hot, but it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. It's about 106 right now, but it's not terrible.
With humidity in the negative numbers, and it actually just pulls the moisture out of your skin. Yeah, whatever you picked up in water weight, it'll be gone by the time you leave.
Yeah, by the time I get home, but when I weigh in next week, I'll be just fine. But like I said, I don't care. Tomorrow night we're having Italian food, and I don't care. I'm on vacation. And I work out, so it is what it is. And like I said, I've been saving my points.
Give yourself a hall pass, Tracy, I think.
Oh, honey, trust me, I got my hall pass.
You're not going to let anyone grab it out of your cold
cowbell for a hall pass.
But here's the thing, because I am, constantly trying to make sure I don't overdo when I eat and all that. So before on Wednesday, I did this whole prep thing for food. So I grilled up some chicken and diced that up. I cut up some tomatoes and cucumbers. I cut up strawberries. We have grapes. I have cherries. I have, low-fat cheese and all sorts of stuff. So that's what I was, chilling on when I was. Oh my God, Bob, has anybody heard of the Ninja Foodie?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I got one.
I was looking at the Ninja Chef last night, but you got to take out a boat loan to buy it. But damn, that thing looked fun.
They got another. What is the Ninja Chef?
It's like a blender from hell with a bunch of attachments.
Don't tell me, because I need a new blender.
1,500 watt motor and attachments on it, and the motor's so strong you can make nut butters with it.
No, so you mean it'll be better than my Vitamix?
I don't know. I mean, it's probably on the same level, but I mean, if that thing will grind up almonds into almond butter, Jesus.
Yeah, because
there was a guy on a lake east of here in East County of San Diego who had one attached to his boat to take him out fishing. That thing moves.
Say what? A what? A blender?
No, never mind. I'm just. It's the heat.
Are you being Scott?
I'm being
Scott.
silly.
He's being Scott.
The heat is just terrible, huh, Scott?
Oh, it's horrible. It's horrible.
So oppressive.
But you're right about Cher. I mean, in terms of performing and, staying svelte and looking great. A couple of weeks ago, I happened to be watching the current incarnation of the Match Game, hosted by Alec Baldwin.
Baldwin, yeah.
And one of the people on the panel, celebrity panel, was Wayne Newton. Jesus God, Lennon.
Oh, God,
in Lennon's tomb looks better preserved than Wayne Newton does.
On top of the fact he's a fucking trumper, so.
That'll do it to you. That'll wreck your looks and your attitude.
Suck the life out of you right there. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. But anyway, go ahead.
So, but no. I'm looking forward to it. Tomorrow we're gonna go see. We've been threatening to do this every time we come here. We threaten to go do it, but we're gonna do it tomorrow because we're kind of gambled out. And I've made my points to keep my status for next year, so I'm good. But we're thinking about going to see the CSI experience tomorrow because we both, that was one of our favorite shows.
Oh, wait. I thought you were going to say that you were going to go ride the roller coaster on top of the skyscraper.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I get nauseated just thinking about that.
No. I mean, I don't mind roller coasters, but I have a problem with something that, like the one at the Stratosphere, that's that high up. And I'm like, see, because I am, my luck, and I would be the one that get on because of me, and the thing would go flying off the roof of the building. So I'm like, no.
No. You're safe. As long as I'm not there, that's not going to happen. That happens to me, Tracy.
What I was thinking about doing, though, because now I have lost enough weight to do it, was ziplining.
Now that could be cool. Of course, if we ever have the Horn in here in West Virginia, you can zip line to your heart's content.
Really?
Oh yeah, we got some serious zip lining here.
Well, see, and that's
through the Appalachian Forest canopy, no less.
See, that's what that's so funny because
and you have restaurants at each stop, right, Bob?
Yep.
Tracy, how much have you lost, if you don't mind me asking?
Almost 30 pounds.
Yeah, I'm up to 40, but I started a lot higher, so you got me beat.
So
I'm just proud of the both of you. Of course, Steve is using the miracle known as Bob's buttermilk cure.
Yeah, that stuff will cure anything with your belly that ails you. I mean, no matter what direction it's going, it'll fix it.
Oh no, I can't do buttermilk. I can't. I could do buttermilk in pancakes, and I'm famous for my buttermilk fried chicken. But as far as whenever on those occasions when I tune in the show, Bob, and you talk about, I'm just gonna drink this big old glass of ice cold buttermilk, and I'm like.
It's like crack, man.
That sound.
Buttermilk is. I loved it as a kid, but I don't know. A year or two ago, I was in the dairy aisle at the Ralph's, and I saw a little 1 quart paper.
Would that be the dairy area?
The dairy area, yeah. And,
how about for yourself there, Bob?
Oh, thank you, Rick. I appreciate it.
Good one, Bob. Good one.
You bet your ass, Bob. It was the dairy area. But anyway, so I said, well, geez, I haven't had buttermilk for about 38, 42 years. So I brought it home, iced it up real good in the refrigerator, and poured me a big old tumbler of it. And oh God.
Oh, they're making it differently now, Scott.
Well, you probably got that thin, fat-free garbage, and that I wouldn't feed that to the hogs.
That's chemical milk. That's chemical milk. It's just chemically induced to make it taste like buttermilk. It's not the same, man.
Well, I don't know what was wrong with the cow they got this from, but it was absolutely
must have been a downer cow there, Scotty.
Huh?
Stick with me.
It's a downer cow.
Yeah.
Well, probably.
Cattle have 3 stomachs, so when you've got acid reflux and you're a cow, you're fucked.
Oh dear. Bob, I'm
Sounds like a rock band, the acid reflux cows, Bob.
I'm not begging for a cowbell, okay? Let me preface with that proviso. But I shared this line when I heard the news of the passing of David Koch. I shared it on Phil Proctor.
Wait. David Koch is dead?
Yeah, dig dong.
Oh wow, we get the pleasure of breaking the happy news to Tracy.
Tracy, yeah, where you been?
Try not to let that shit ruin your hair.
Wait, everybody shut up and let Tracy savor the moment.
Wait a fucking second. When the fuck did this motherfucker die? When?
This morning.
Right.
Oh.
It's all over the news, Tracy. That's on our vacation. You turn the damn boob tube off.
Yeah,
Tracy. Tracy, here's the headline. Here's the headline. One Coke over the line, sweet Jesus.
All right. Yeah.
It's the corner of the airway station.
There you go.
Oh my God. One down, one to go.
There you go. Yes.
But Charles is the real evil one, I hear. So.
Well, evil is a preservative.
There you go.
That's really saying something.
That's why Cheney is still alive.
It is.
Evil is a preservative.
Yeah, I mean, son of a bitch went around.
Kissinger as well.
By the way, and I saw somebody speculating earlier today. Rule of 3. Epstein, David Koch. Who's going to be the third one? And somebody said ... Kissinger. And I forget who was responding, but he said, "I'm thinking Oranger."
Oh, jeez.
But Bob, I wanted to interject that Cheney didn't even have a pulse for over a year.
Yeah,
right. He
well, that's because he sleeps in a box with a little bit of dirt from the old country,
Oh.
And you don't see garlic in the Cheney household.
We got Tracy laughing. I love to hear Tracy laugh.
When they go camping, the tent stakes are metal. They are not made out of wood. You can bet your ass on that.
There you go.
Or silver.
Bingo.
Oh my God! Oh my Jesus, Lord.
And we got a note in regard to the Stones show. We got a note from Lady B. Brought to you by Metamucil, Cialis, and the Hurricane. I kid, but I'm envious, Lady B says. You Californians and easy access to rock concerts. I love Mixed Emotions. That is a great tune.
That is good.
Lady B said, the rest of us take secret delight in your minor earthquakes. Yeah, I'm a hater. Enjoy your weekend.
well,
and adds, also, has anyone ever seen them perform Daddy, You're a Fool to Cry live?
Oh, I love it.
No, I don't think so. I haven't. Well, the thing is, we may have easy access to the concerts, but when you have a concert at 7:30 on a work day, it ain't easy access to get there as far as the freaking traffic jams. I mean,
it ain't easy getting up the next morning either, is it, Rick?
What's that?
It's not easy getting up the next morning either after you've been out till 4 a.m.,
Well, I actually thought I had my alarm set for 7:30 this morning. Star got up at like 6:30 to go walk a dog. And I said, I basically begged off and said, no, there's no way I can do this. And so, don't you know, I wake up at like 8:45. It's like, oh my God, I better get going. So I was tired. We didn't get back to her place till 1:30. So
hey, Tracy, I was going to make a suggestion. Since you're out in Vegas and you've got and you're going to have a day, and I don't use this in a pejorative term. I cherish those fuck off days. Those days when nobody has a claim on your time and it is entirely just your own. You haven't made any plans. Maybe when you get back from Share tonight, hop on Netflix or whatever and see if you can find the Anthony Bourdain episode where there's been a couple where he did Vegas, but the one where he did sort of off the beaten path Vegas might provide you some interesting fodder to consider as well.
I'm just envious she's seeing Cher, man. Cher's an icon. That's going to be a great show.
Yeah.
She's gonna she'll bring down the house. I promise.
She will. Which auditorium is she in, Tracy?
She may have skedaddled.
Well, in case she has, she's one of the few artists.
It's the Park MGM. She tells me.
Okay.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, she's had a hit song in each of the last 6 decades, like the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s. I mean, how many artists?
You're right.
Say that? Is that right?
Yeah. I think she is getting close to matching Sinatra's record. Sinatra had top 10 numbers in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. How many is that?
So he's got 7 decades there. She's got 6.
Yeah.
She's got 1 more to tie.
Yeah.
Well, I would bet my money on Cher to tie. I don't know if she's gonna.
Well, I mean, now
Sinatra.
2020. We realize this, right? The 0 number is actually the last year of a given decade. So 2020 will be the end of the second decade of the 21st century. So she's got to have a hit.
Exactly.
She's got to have a hit in January 1, 2021 or later. I suggest, in line with what we did earlier, maybe if we can get rid of Trump, maybe she does a cover of Ding Dong the Wicked Witch is Dead and lets it be and lets it drop on January the 20th, 2021.
There you go.
It would probably rocket to the top of the charts and get her that 7th decade.
Yeah, with President Warren and Vice President Buttigieg or whatever, huh?
Nice. Cher was the first one to tinker around with auto-tune, and she didn't do it because she doesn't need it. She did it to make herself sound cool. It had nothing to do with, I can't hit the note.
No, she can hit the notes.
That? When was that? 80s or 70s?
It was a tune in the 90s, I thought, wasn't it?
Was it Love After Life or Life After Love?
That was it.
Do you It's a great song.
Yep.
I can't do that one in karaoke for some reason.
Because it's got auto-tune, bro.
Auto-tune is the friend of every karaoke star,
Tracy did disappear from the conversation. I guess Jan got back. But she mentioned to me, and again, we're not fundraising. This is fundraising free radio. But because she missed last night and didn't know, but Tracy wanted to put a $100 challenge on the table, and I told her I'd do it. So we'll call it Tracy's Adventure in Vegas Challenge. So she's putting $100 on the table if anybody wants to match it. And the fact of the matter is, what we raise in a month is basically it's a minimum standard. But if anybody wants to jump in on that, that'd be lovely. And it would take a little bit more of the sting out of a brutal August. So Tracy's Adventure in Vegas Challenge is on the table. Thank you, Tracy. Thank you so very, very much. Sorry, I didn't mean to kill the conversation with that. But
Oh, no, that's okay, Bob. I was going to say the longest, the answer to the trivia question is golden earrings.
Golden earring, yeah. Ron wrote me a little bit ago. It was golden earring.
They started in 1961, and they still have 2 original members. And they have all the members they've toured with since 1970.
And that's really coincidental because they've also got 2 hits.
Radar Love, and what else?
Twilight Zone.
I remember Radar Love.
Oh, okay.
It's 2 a.m.
They're not in the Rock Hall of Fame, are they? With 2 hits, I'd find that hard to believe.
I don't think, and they're Dutch.
Yeah,
I believe, because when they recorded Radar Love, they didn't speak a word of English and had no idea what they were singing, or something to that effect.
That's funny. Apparently, they still play live, but only in Europe, like Netherlands, Germany, Belgium, UK, which is too bad, Or maybe it's good for them from the standpoint of me attending their shows. I don't know.
Well, there is that.
Badfinger can't be far behind them. They've got that Baby Blues song that premiered on the end of Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can't be that far, but they've been around forever, too. I mean, there's so many groups.
No, they were discovered. They're a Welsh band, and they were discovered by the Beatles.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Badfinger hasn't been constituted for a long time. I thought they broke up.
Yeah,
one of their members committed suicide after their accountant took all their money.
Yeah, remember the key word there is the adverb continuously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, you got groups like the Burrito Brothers that keep traveling by extension. Well, I used to play with him, so that gives me the right to continue carry the football, and really shouldn't work like that.
Hey, speaking of original rock members, I was kind of texting to Steve earlier. I saw the
suite. Yeah, that's disappointing, Rick.
Yeah, I read what you posted. It sounded like they just had they had terrible front of house and they had terrible PA and
terrible sound people.
Yeah.
Or they were just trying to be too damn loud. So a lot of groups will do that. They forget they're playing to a bunch of old farts now.
Well, and remember, loudness will cover a wide variety of sins. Oh, and hey, please turn off your video on the Skype chat, just because it chews up a bunch of bandwidth.
That may be why mine's been dropping off. Yeah.
That scared the hell out of me. I'm sitting leaning back in the recliner, and the guy comes up on the screen. I said, Jesus Christ, what happened to my hair? Because I've got glasses.
It's not a mirror, Scott.
I've got glasses just like that, and I'm wearing a black T-shirt, and I think, Jesus, my hair. What the fuck?
Well, hey, thank you very kindly. Henry jumped in on Tracy's challenge. Thank you, and that means it's half done. Tracy's Adventure in Vegas weekend challenge.
Everything watchable is dried up. Do you got any recommendations? I mean,
oh God, yeah. The other day when
Tales, that's gone. Everything's gone now.
The other day when I called Bob, I had alluded to my TV viewing tips, and I never got to it.
Yeah, I know.
On Netflix, there's a short series called The Family.
The Family. I knew you were going there. The first 2 episodes are sleepy. Does it get better after that, or?
Oh yeah, it's pretty good. It could have gone another episode because they just kind of leave you hanging with it.
You know what surprises me about that series, though? I heard about it and I went, wait, is this the same thing that was a book like 5 years ago, and they're just now getting around to turning it into a series? And it is. It's Jeff Charlotte's book.
Yeah. But I thought it was pretty good, and I had known about The Family, over the years. I had heard bits and pieces about them, and then there was something in the news a few years ago about that house that they kept up on Capitol Hill.
I used to walk by that place every day.
Oh, really?
On the way to our little grocery store on Capitol Hill when we had our apartment on Capitol Hill in the Methodist building.
Okay. Well, I know about where that is. I'm not sure if he's still in the Methodist building or not, but did you ever run into, oh Christ, what is his name? Oh God, it'll come to me.
Oh, I ran into Diaper Dave Vitter on a number of occasions.
Let me go in the other room because I've got his book.
He lived in the Methodist building, and the day that I was doing lawn, we lived down in the basement, down in steerage next to the bilge pumps, and I walked out one day, and he was going to the laundry room was just around the corner from where our apartment was, and there's Diaper Dave Vitter wearing a pair of shiny orange basketball shorts and a tank undershirt. Okay, well then I'm confusing the building. And now that I think about it, it was a Catholic building, not a Methodist building.
Oh, okay.
But there's a lawyer who has a lot of videos on YouTube and wrote a book a couple of years ago called The People's Advocate, The Life and Legal History of America's Most Fearless Public Interest Lawyer. And the guy is Daniel Sheehan. And I recommend his book, and I recommend his videos on YouTube. He was originally, his claim to fame was being on the legal team for the estate, the family of Karen Silkwood, against Kerr McGee. But
Written
anyway,
down. Written down.
But no, other stuff. There was a thing on Netflix called the Giant Hack.
The
having
Great
to
Hack.
do with
The Great
the
Hack.
Great Hack. The Great
Oh
Hack.
yeah. Watch
Which was-
that.
I'm
pretty
saving.
good.
I'm saving that till Agnes gets home from our daughters.
Yeah, well, it's drying up, man. We got like 500 channels of shit to choose from. Ain't a damn thing to watch, you know.
Well, do you have Amazon Prime?
Yeah.
Have you watched The Americans, that TV series from a few years ago about the couple who are Soviet spies living undercover in America?
Yeah,
No,
our buddy Dan Fisher worked on the last 2 seasons of that. He was the props master.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. It's a great
It's free with Prime or
free
Yeah.
with Prime. The Americans. It's
Nice.
absolutely riveting.
And what's it about again?
It's a sleeper cell of KGB agents who are embedded in American culture, and it begins in the 80s and works its way toward the present.
Hey, well, thanks, guys. I appreciate
And
that. 'cause
yeah, I mean, I
Shit on.
made mention of that Agnes and I just ate that up. And
Oh yeah.
and because of the other shows that were sucking all the oxygen out of the room all those years, Breaking Bad and that show about the fucking dragons, they got ignored until the very last couple of seasons, and then they got a couple of Emmys. Matthew Rhys is a fantastic actor.
Oh yeah. Well, speaking of Breaking Bad and things associated, for some months now, there's been a rumor that a Breaking Bad movie has been in the works,
So is the Sopranos movie.
and apparently,
Well, hold on. How are you going to make a Sopranos movie with James Gandolfini being all dead and everything?
Prequel. You never seen the son who played, the guy that played young James Gandolfini? He wasn't bad. Wasn't him, but
You know what distressed me more than anything was when I found out that they've made a second season of Altered Carbon.
Really?
I just wanted to go out and hit the old dead tree in my yard with a ball bat or something.
well,
Jesus
I never watched
Christ,
it based on your non-recommendation.
Oh, what a hot mess. And somehow it got a second season. I'll tune in and watch the first one just long enough to start screaming and then turn it off.
the latest season of Glow is not good. The first two were great. This was more like a soap opera.
And Tracy, by the
evolving.
way, Tracy let me know that the last episode of the second season of Pose was last week, so it's now safe for Agnes and me to binge watch that. And that is just a stunningly, magnificently well-produced program.
And what's it called again?
Pose. It's about
POSE.
POSE. It's about the ballroom culture of the trans community in the late '80s in New York.
Netflix Prime.
Well, it started out on, I forget which channel, but
Don't say Showtime. I just canceled it.
No. But you can get I know season 1 is on Netflix.
All right, cool. Got it.
Hey, Bob.
Thank you.
Yeah, Joe, what's up, man?
Did you catch any of Snowfall?
No.
It's based in L.A. and it's during the Reagan era when he was smuggling cocaine in.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's a great series. And it's called Snowfall. Yeah.
Oh, and Steve, Pose is originally on FX.
Okay, but Netflix has picked up season 1. Just spark the interest. Is that what you said, or did I misunderstand you?
No. Season 1's on Netflix. Tracy said
Okay.
Tracy said I can't watch Snowfall. She said I lived it.
Snowfall. And what is that on Netflix as well, Joe?
Yeah. Yeah, it's about a Mexican crime lord. His daughter sells marijuana, and then she realizes how much more lucrative cocaine can be, and she gets involved with that, and it's a hell of a series.
Oh, and for Tracy,
love the Horn family. I know,
I know.
Run out of stuff to watch.
I know Tracy's still listening. I just got a note from Mike in Cascadia. He says, we always stay a few nights in Vegas after hiking around in the Utah desert. Here's a recommendation for Tracy and Jan for a nice place to eat. The Yardbird Southern Table and Bar. Southern and soul food at the Venetian in Las Vegas. The Yardbird Southern Table and Bar.
That would be interesting.
No, I'm about sure it's going to be tasty. Oh, and there's a big gourmet barbecue tasting going on here where I am tomorrow over at Adventures on the Gorge, and they're going to have like barbecued gator and all kinds of weird shit. It might Agnes isn't here, and so I might go and check that out just to have something to do.
When I say interesting, I mean the West Coast's interpretation of what I eat pretty much every day. It'd be interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I appreciate the recommendation. I really do. Recommendations, everybody.
Oh, and by the way,
if you're running out of stuff to watch,
if you're a Star Trek fan, over on Amazon Prime, Randy points out that Star Trek Enterprise, a few seasons of that, however many there were on over there. And I'm one of those weird people that does not hate Star Trek Enterprise. I thought it was really kind of cool.
I like the Orville. It looks like they quit it.
No, it's moved to Hulu.
Has it? Well, I haven't seen any more seasons come out.
Well, no, season 2 just ended, and the next season won't be out till, probably late 2020, just because of all the obligations of people like Seth MacFarlane.
Yeah, it's just like Better Call Saul. It was supposed to come back this spring. It won't be back till the first of the year.
Well, I've got another one for you, Steve, from a couple of years ago on Amazon Prime. An Honest Liar. It's a documentary about the amazing Randy, who was known early in his career was a magician, stage magician.
Yeah, prestidigitator.
Escape artist and all that, or?
Well, I think he did a little of that too.
But he was mostly an illusionist.
Honest Liar. That's on Prime.
Yeah, An Honest Liar. And in more recent years, well, I say recent, in the last 30 years, he has made a career of debunking that Israeli spoon bending guy,
Uri Geller.
Uri Geller.
His debunk of Uri Geller. The Tonight Show called him in as a consultant because they were going to have Uri Geller on, and he gave the Carson and his team a few tips, and said, "Don't let him near anything he's supposed to work with."
Yeah,
this is ringing bells, so I must have caught some peripheral to this on the news or something,
And he became a well-known skeptic. I know. For instance, Ben Birch is a big fan of The Amazing Randy. He set up his foundation, the James Randi Foundation, and he offered $1 million prize to anyone who could verify scientifically, testing, controlled conditions, anyone who could verify paranormal activity. Nobody has ever claimed the prize. Nobody ever will claim the prize because it's all bunko.
Well, Bob, that episode when Uri Geller was on with Carson on The Tonight Show, that was on Antenna TV a couple of weeks ago. The whole visit, uncut, is even better than the segments depicted in An Honest Liar. I'll have to get the date and send you the episode, and maybe you can find the full Carson Uri Geller, because Carson, he was a magician early in his youth and early in his career, for pin money. He would do magic shows and stuff. Johnny Carson would. But
Carnac he's also great.
was also a bit of a skeptic, which is why he called Amazing Randy in, to consult. And as Uri Geller sinks further and further into abject embarrassment, Carson gets these looks on his faces like, we've got you, you crazy bastard, you fraud.
You con artist.
Yeah.
I remember Carson when he was Karnak the Great. You guys remember that?
Yep.
Yeah.
He'd wear that like turban on his head, and it's funny, man.
One of my favorite Karnak lines, the premise of the deal was he would give the answer and then he would discern the question.
Right.
He's got the turban on and the cape and everything. The answer is sis, boom, ba. And then he opens up the envelope, pulls the card out.
What is the sound of a sheep exploding?
Yes. And he loses it. Ed McMahon loses it. The audience goes wild. Jesus, God, he was good.
They broke the mold for sure. But Bob, do you mind if I switch gears? I got a question for you, real quick.
Oh, sure. And we're into the third hour of the program, and nobody's brought up the new magic phrase, "I hereby order."
Yeah. Alternatives for China.
I was going to ask you about Patrick Bryan. He was the CEO of Overstock.com.
Yeah.
Man, he's acting crazier than a dog in a hubcap factory. I mean...
Well, he's never been particularly
fuck?
tied down to planet Earth.
Yeah, I guess so, but good gosh, he's talking deep state, and it's just all kind of crap that I don't really even understand.
Well, see, back when he started Overstock, and it was about the same time that eBay got going,
and shortly after Amazon too,
he
wasn't
swore up and down that there was a vast conspiracy against Overstock, and it went downhill from it. And the minute he did that, it started tanking.
Well, it's not so much a vast conspiracy as it is they fancy themselves to be a slightly upscale Big Lots via mail order. Isn't that the premise of Overstocked? It's a lot of crap that didn't sell retail, and they bought up the lots of it, and they're selling it at a discount online. That's pretty much as I understand it.
I think I've only ordered off of them a couple times, and I think, unless I know the whole market tanked today, but I think they were one of the few stocks that was actually up.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. The market puked more than 600 points today.
Yeah, it took a crash
on that series of utterly insane tweets that included, I hereby order all American businesses to stop doing business in China.
Yep.
You can't, and it's getting. The maggots are just going to keep doing what the maggots do.
Worked real good for the soybean farmers.
Yeah, no kidding. But they're just going to continue to deny. They are drowning in they are drowning in denial. But the fact of the matter is, he's gone. The chosen one, the second coming of God. By the way, nobody's pointed out that the second coming of God, that phrase, is right up there with 2 Corinthians. This guy has about as much comprehension of religious doctrine and dogma of the last 2,000 years of Christianity. He knows about as much, he knows less about that than I know about Jainism, okay? And all I know about Jainism is how to spell it. The second coming of God, no, it's the second coming of Christ Jesus or Christ.
Here's how bad it's gotten with his pronouncements. Even the spirochetes in what's left of the gray trailings of his brain matter are nudging one another saying, get a load of this schmuck. When the spirochetes turn on you, that you've just gone off the deep end.
And nobody will do anything about it.
No, nobody wants to raise the 25th Amendment. I mean, his approval rate, what is he at, 36%?
Yeah, the latest approval. Yes.
What was Nixon at when they booted him?
Well, I thought it was 39%, the latest rates.
No, there was one out today. It was 36.
36, yeah.
Jeez.
I don't think he's gotten higher than like 43 or 44.
He got to like 46 at one point.
Oh, wow. Well,
which I found amazing.
But it begs my question, where was Nixon at when they booted him? I know that was then, this is now.
Camp David.
Anybody know?
Yeah, he was down in the 30s.
I know. Yeah. What was his numbers at? Was it lower than 36?
I
was
think
low 30s. Low 30s, I think.
Upper 20s, low 30s at least.
Didn't have far to go then. Shit.
No.
That 46 must have been a Fox News poll.
No, it actually wasn't. It was like ABC or something.
Bullshit.
Well, they've turned on him too. You know, he's mad at them too. Fox News polls.
Yeah.
He's threatening to boycott their debate.
He's acting like a cornered animal. He's mad at everything, it seems like, you know?
Well, didn't Joe Walsh, the representative, just announce that he's going to primary him, try to...
Who's Joe Walsh, though, I guess? Most people are going to say.
No,
guitar
he's,
player. No, I'm joking.
No, he's pretty prominent in the
Illinois.
Tea Party movement.
Yeah, Illinois, former Illinois House member, yeah.
Yeah.
Republican bag Tea Party area.
Yeah, right. Well, he's the deadbeat dad Tea Partier.
Right, exactly.
He got chucked out of the Congress, and like all ex Republican members of Congress, landed a talk radio gig.
Yeah, right.
Well, but the thing is that the incumbents very rarely get challenged in the next election cycle by members of their own party. And that to me speaks volumes, because he's not the only one. Doesn't Massachusetts Governor Weld, former governor?
Yeah, he announced a long time ago.
I mean,
the best part though was when a couple of those never Trump conservatives said, "You know who we need? We need somebody like Mitt Romney."
Oh, jeez.
Oh, God.
Right. Yeah, the white horse or whatever the hell he is to save the country, right?
So does anybody look for Mitt to run?
He's just waiting. He's got his shiv in hand, and he's like getting ready to lift it, and just waiting for the.
That's why he's so damn quiet. By the way, Clarence down in South Carolina, Stan points out Trump's order to U.S. businesses. Does that include Ivanka's and his business operations in China? I'm betting no.
Yeah, right.
You happen to be longer.
I don't think Mitt will run simply because at the rate things are going, and we're still not quite a year and a half out from the 2020 election, at the rate things are going for Republicans, I don't think 2020 is going to be a good year for them. I mean, granted,
Mitch McConnell does. He's worried about the filibuster.
Well, that is true. He's kind of begging.
Old Mitchie's panicking. He sees the writing on the wall.
Well, and it's like that great political philosopher once said, Red Fox, when you can read the handwriting on the wall, you're in the toilet. Mm-hmm. So that could be where we are or headed.
Yeah.
So what's the deal with the filibuster? Mitch is thinking of ending it, or what's he thinking of?
No, he's worried that Schumer's going to end it, and he's railing against because he knows that the Republicans are going to lose the Senate probably. He believes that. So
it depends on getting enough good candidates, to run, so that we can eliminate the damn thing,
Yeah.
I mean,
Way past it.
the problem with the Senate is it's so weighted heavily in favor of the rural states, and
Yep.
the Republicans, their senators represent what, 43% of the American people, whereas Democrats represent 57% in terms of,
It's a
if you
joke.
just go by population or something like that, I think.
It's an absolute joke.
Which is undemocratic, and and it does violate the one person, one vote rule if that still applies.
Oh, by the way, completely off topic. Okay, let me stay on topic for 1 minute. I've been delving a little deeper than I actually cared to into the Kentucky Senate race. And what we need more than anything else is a viable Democratic candidate. And it's not impressive. Because the, what's her name? I can't remember.
Not McSing.
No,
McGrath?
Amy McGrath. Amy McGrath. She's got an impressive resume. And lo and behold, there's a huge stink that's boiled up in Kentucky because apparently one of her campaign functionaries just got one of the most popular and happens to be Democratic radio hosts in the state canned. It didn't come from McConnell's camp. It came from hers. And they got him canned because he was thinking about running in the primary for the nomination to run against Mitch against Amy McGrath. And so, it's another one of those Jean-Luc Picard with his head in his hands, not this shit again, but yeah, this shit again. And the chance of replacing Chinless Mitch dropped precipitously with the arrival of that story. Ron and Raleigh, Nixon approval. Nixon's approval rating when he resigned was 24%. Thank you, Ron. The Ad Hoc Horn Research Department. Oh, and what was I was going to... There was something else I was going to mention, but no, that when you started talking about... I mean, Mitch needs to go. I mean, if he was the third of the rule of threes, this country would erupt in joyous applause. Because that speech that he gave about how 51 Democratic senators could subject us to brutal socialism. No. The fact of the matter is, his 53 Republican senators represent an aggregate lower number of people than probably the 4 senators from California and New York.
Put together, yeah.
Oh, wow, I didn't know about this. Further TV viewing tips. Glenn just dropped a note. Just to horn in on the discussion about shows to watch on the TV machine, one of my favorite Pulp Fiction type series is Goliath on Amazon Prime. It stars Billy Bob Thornton as a once powerful, washed-up lawyer living in a motel in West L.A., to paraphrase the Amazon blurb. He gets drawn into uncovering a vast and deadly conspiracy involving his old law firm, and though the story takes place in contemporary times, it has a definite film noir feel to it. I agree. I watched Season 1 and Season 2, and Glenn tells us Season 3 begins October 1st, and Glenn says, I'm looking forward to it. I didn't know that. I'm looking forward to it, too, now.
Well, thanks to Glenn, man.
That's a really good show. I forgot about that one.
I like
what
Billy
show's
Bob
that?
anyhow.
Goliath with Billy Bob Thornton.
See, I thought it ended. I thought it was just a one-off, the way it ended in Season 1. And then, boom, they're back. And I tell you who the real gem of that show is the woman who plays his lawyer sidekick. She is a fantastic actor. I mean, exceptional. I don't know if she walked away with a handful of Emmys, but if she didn't, she should. Because, of course, I can't remember her name.
I have had it on my list to watch, I guess, ever since the first season. and just had never gotten around to looking at it. But I've heard that it's quite good. So I may have
the
to.
The second season wasn't as good as the first. The first season, but that's only because the first season was just flat out tremendous.
Yeah. I'll have to fire that up over the weekend.
Hell, I might fire it up tonight.
Have you never seen it, Steve?
No.
Oh man.
Yeah, you'll like
Lives
it.
with Billy Bob Thornton.
Yeah.
You'll like it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I appreciate the recommendation.
Well, he's awfully good anyway, you know.
He can play anything, get away with it, you know.
Oh, yeah. So,
Laugh about again.
You guys want to talk any more rock and roll?
Well, is it time for food porn?
Oh, go, yeah,
food
go.
porn.
And
Go
I
for
don't
it,
know if
Roger.
you've been listening, Roger, but yes, the ginger peach was fucking fantastic.
Okay. There might be some more of that coming your way.
Oh wow, that'd be wonderful. I mean,
Actually, it was ginger pear, not ginger peach.
Okay, well there was a smudge on the lid.
Yeah, well, sorry about that smudge. What happens when you reuse lids?
Well, I'm all for recycling.
Anyhow, food porn time.
Yes.
Tuesday, I got involved in a training of trainers, and we canned up about 50 pounds of tuna to train the trainers, getting ready for our 900-pound day tomorrow.
Wait, what?
And that's
how many jars is that?
About 900 jars. It's a class I'm participating in teaching at the Food for Lane County Pantry Kitchen Warehouse here in Eugene, Oregon. And there's 20 participants for the class, and there's about 40 master food preservers that are helping to deal with it, and we all get to can up our tuna. And we're getting the tuna itself for in the neighborhood of $6 a pound. Well, that's what we're selling it to the participants for. So they come and they pay their money for the workshop, and we tell them how to do it and monitor them so they don't get botulism, all the rest of that crap. And then they go home with some tuna. And anyhow, that's my big day tomorrow. I've got 2 burner stoves and 4 pressure cookers in the back of my truck, and go drop that off and then go pick up the 900 pounds of tuna and bring it back. And we spend the whole day doing it. But that's not really what I wanted to say. Last year, the grapes in my grape arbor didn't taste for snot, so I didn't do anything with them. And this year, they tasted good. So today, I've jarred up, 19-quart jars of grape juice. So things are going great. The Getaoka salmon squash, I planted 3 plants up here this year, and I've got like 5 20-pounders that are still sitting on the ground because they're not quite ripe to use. But my question and statement to you is I really liked seeing your, oh my God, I've got to leave, but the acorn's going. Will it take care of itself? And glad to see that it did, and enjoy it. And on Labor Day, I'm going to cook up 3 racks of ribs in the Dutch oven with half beer and half barbecue sauce, and get them toasted on the grill, and then cut them up and stick them into the Dutch oven and have the charcoal going and simmer them for a couple of hours. And
well, you know, Roger, if
use
you
them for the picnic.
If you want to get that Kamado experience for like relatively cheap, they make a like tabletop version of that acorn, and it's like $150, and it'll do a whole pork butt, a couple of racks of ribs, and it all works on the same principle. And I mean, you get some hickory smoky wonderfulness, and of course, you've got access to alder out there, which is something I've never experienced for a flavoring wood.
Oh, alder is great. I prefer alder to apple.
Yeah, see, I'd love to try that sometime. And you know, the reason I posted those pictures of those butts is because once I was sure that they were actually good, and they are, I I wanted to give people the idea that it all doesn't have to look like it came out of some food network or food TV program. Ugly food is good food too.
There's an outfit that's just advertised up here where they're, I forget the name of it now, but uglyproduce.com or some name like that. And when you go to the supermarket, everything is perfect. And this outfit is gathering up all the imperfect and filling boxes, and you can actually order what you want in the boxes. And they deliver once a week of boxes of ugly fruit, like misshapen kiwis and
the stuff
apples.
That doesn't look all cute in the grocery store.
Yeah, and it sells great at farmers market. I've never had a problem getting rid of ugly produce at farmers market, but you go to the grocery store and everything's perfect, which is absolute bullshit. It all tastes great.
Well, what's going to happen with those with at least part of those butts? I mean, we've been nibbling on them here. But I'm holding one back because tomorrow I'm going to do up a whole bunch of, good jasmine rice. And since it won't be raining all day tomorrow like it was today, go out. I'll have to re-season the griddle a little bit. But I got my butter and my minced garlic, and my peas and carrots, and some good eggs, and some water chestnuts and some bamboo shoots. And I'm going to do hickory smoked pork fried rice. And I have no doubt that that's going to be just fantastic.
That sounds great.
And the other, in fact, I was talking back and forth with Asa earlier today because he's got an acorn too, and he shares similar tastes and has a passion for ramen the way I do. I got the guys at Wigglin' Pig out there looking for pork neck bones for me. And I'm going to make my own tonkatsu broth. And I got to thinking about a couple of things. I'm going to take some of those neck bones, and I'm not going to let them smoke very long at all, but I'm just going to let them bathe in some hickory smoke for a little bit before and put that in the tonkatsu, so it'll make the tonkatsu broth. It's not going to be authentically Japanese, but it'll have a little hillbilly twang to it from the hickory. And pork belly's a big thing in ramen too. I'm gonna get in touch with Benton's Bacon down in Tennessee, and it's not that much more expensive than grocery store bacon, except for the shipping cost. And they send you these 1 pound vacuum sealed, keeps forever packages of their hickory smoked bacon. I'm gonna see if they'll just send me an unsliced pound. And slice that myself and use it in my hillbilly ramen. With the smoky pork neck bones and the smoky pork belly, I got to think it's gonna be mind-bendingly good.
Well, it seems like if they're getting the bacon and doing the smoke themselves and then slicing it, they ought to be able to give you that pound. But if they're just a middleman, they
no, they're doing it. They're doing it themselves. But I have a feel, The thing I anticipate being a problem is they are so popular, and they are a small operation and they go nonstop. It might be hard to catch up with a couple of pounds of it unsliced, just because of the demand that they're under.
Yeah, there's an outfit down in Cave Junction, Oregon, called Taylor's Sausage, and they're really. They're really big into something. You shoot a bear, you can take it into them. You shoot a deer, you can take it into them, and they'll custom butcher it for you. But they also put out some incredible stuff, and they're small enough to where you want something special, no problem, we'll do it for you. So it just has to do with the size they're on, I guess. If they're overrun with orders, then you might not be able to special order it.
And the other thing that Benton's does is ham. Classic, Smoky Mountain Appalachian style ham. Yeah, all hickory smoky and wonderful and salty and cured the old school way. And that stuff, I think, because we've been talking about red eye gravy some lately, I got to think that stuff's going to make some fantastic red eye gravy.
Yeah,
That
well,
ham, Bob, is
Ham.
that dark Virginia ham?
Only
Only
Tennessee. Yeah, it's got a real deep,
Jordan-
dry red. It's dry and it's got a red color.
Oh,
Cured in
Oh,
a
I-
smokehouse, correct?
I used to love that ham.
Yep.
I mean, it's got a kind of an earthy, musty flavor because it's
Yeah.
it's
Nothing like a
naturally
Sunday
cured.
ha- Nothing like a Sunday ham. This is smoked in a smoked house, correct?
Yeah, and it's, I mean, downright leathery. And if you've got somebody with a slicer, if you've got a friend at a, in a butcher shop or whatever, if you can get that stuff sliced razor thin, it is on a par with any prosciutto you ever ate.
Yeah.
Wow.
And a hot pan of biscuits. Woo! I'm hurting myself here. Yeah, instead, for once we haven't ruined dinner in any of the time zones. We've we've heightened the taste buds, I think.
Well, we still have a little time. We have a half an hour yet, Bob. We could at least ruin 2 time zones dinners, I suppose. Mountain and Pacific, right?
Yeah, I'm in a good mood. Why do that?
We won't do it. We won't do it. Keep a perfect record, right?
Yeah.
What did the Sopranos call it? Gabagool or something? And that prosciutto is.
Oh,
sliced up
gabagool?
there. Yeah, gabagool. Yep.
No, that's not prosciutto. That's
Is it like pastrami or?
No,
I know
it's-
it's one of them salty meats.
yeah, it is. But oh hell, we've got the internet. Why am I not looking this up?
Well, prosciutto is just a very thinly sliced, smoked. However you want to do it, but it's a dry ham with a bunch of fat in it. It's a fatty chunk of meat made like a ham,
Like a
and
pastrami.
gotten dry, and then sliced really thin. Yeah, a little wetter than pastrami,
Yep.
but and tighter. It holds together better than pastrami, but prosciutto is just. I mean it. It's just another one of those things that somebody figured out how to make it, and it's great. And people make bad, and people make good, and when it's good, it's great.
So you teach canning, huh, friend?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an art. I mean, if you do it wrong, it can kill you. You know, I've kind of always been put off by it.
Yeah, it can, but if you learn the rules, it's really hard to kill yourself.
You would have to really almost have intent, is what you're saying?
No. If you know what you're doing,
Yeah.
it's really hard. If you don't know what you're doing, it's relatively easy. It all has to do with the pH of the food that you're doing. If the pH is 4.6 or below, and tomatoes are right at that edge.
Or green beans or...
Well, green beans are much higher than 4.6.
Okay.
Green beans are the one that usually nails people.
No kidding.
Yeah, the canned green beans. And if you don't do them right, it's really easy for an organism, it's called botulism, to start growing in the jar. And botulism is in everything. It's in the dirt that you have on your feet when you walk out in the yard. I mean, botulism is everywhere. And botulism in and of itself isn't the problem. But if botulism is not killed off when you do your canning, because it's an oxygen-deprived environment at room temperature, the botulism grows, puts out a toxin, and that toxin is a paralytic toxin. And if you cook the beans that got canned improperly for 10 minutes at boiling, it deactivates the toxin. The real problem is somebody cans up the green beans improperly, makes a 3-5 bean salad, whatever.
Right, without
and
cooking it. I gotcha. Okay.
Takes them to the church potluck, and they just opened up the jar and dumped them in and served it at the church potluck. All of a sudden, everybody's getting sick, and half of them are dying. If you cook the beans and serve them hot, even if you canned them wrong, you're not going to get sick. And the USDA rules and regulations go somewhat overboard and be super, super safe. on that kind of thing. And there's some people that decide, I can water bath everything. Well, water bath only gets it to 212 at sea level. And in order to kill off the botulism toxin, you got to get it to like 235.
So we call it blanching here. Water bath, blanch, same thing.
No. Blanching is simply taking the veggies and dipping them in boiling water for a minute or so and take them out. And that kills off the enzymes. And you want to do that before you freeze. So if you're going to take broccoli and freeze it and then pull it out in the middle of winter and have some fresh broccoli, you want to blanch it before you put it in the freezer. Blanching and canning are two totally different things.
There's apples and oranges, isn't it?
Yeah, if you want to can broccoli, you need to do it at the 10 pounds of pressure at sea level. I don't have the time memorized for it. But if you want yourself some green mush, go for canning broccoli. It's just going to be green mush.
Really foul soup too. Yeah.
It's going to be foul. But actually, you can.
Okay, I think dinner time is officially getting ruined.
No. You can kraut broccoli as sauerkraut. You can take and kraut broccoli or kraut cauliflower, and I've done both, and they came out just fine. But I just didn't care for the flavor, so I haven't done it again.
And what do you use for your kraut? Just cabbage and pink Himalayan salt?
I just use cabbage and kosher salt.
Wow.
Yeah, you don't actually want to use those artisanal salts and stuff like that because they've got impurities in them. That's like.
I bet it stinks up a room though, doesn't it?
Well, I don't know. I made it out in the barn.
Yeah.
I mean, I will tell you.
If you don't have a barn, if you don't have a barn, right?
I will tell you that in order to fill a 5-gallon bucket properly with cabbage to make sauerkraut, it takes 45 pounds of cabbage to fill a 5-gallon bucket.
Yep.
Wow.
And you layer it. Layer of cabbage, layer of salt. Layer of cabbage, layer of salt, etc.
Well, you kind of fluff it together before you pack it down.
Bob's been down this road too then.
Oh yeah, I mean I watched my mother and grandmother do this stuff. In fact, Roger, my grandmother was born in 1894, and she was a lifelong learner, and she was very proud of the fact. She used to tell me that she was the first person in these parts to successfully can green beans.
Well, if she did it on a water bath, she probably boiled them for 3 hours.
Very likely.
Because that is the, not USDA recommended time, but that is the recommended time from the about 1920s Ball Blue Book, is that anything that we now say you have to pressure can, if you water bathed it for 3 hours, it was okay.
Define water bath, just briefly.
Well, you take the jar, you put the lid on it, and you put it in this pot of water covered with at least 2 inches of water above it, and you boil it for a period of time.
I got you.
But
no, Steve. It's the jar with the food in it.
Oh, okay.
And you put your lid on, and you put your ring on. You screw it down tight. You make sure there's no air bubbles. All of that shit. And there's a rack that goes inside the water bath canner. And the water bath canner, like I've got, is one of those porcelain covered, metal affairs. And there's a galvanized metal rack that drops down in it, and it's got spaces for jars. And so you fill your jars, you put them in, like Roger said, you get 2 inches of water over them, and you boil for a set period of time. That's called water bath canning. And the heat will create the vacuum inside the jar. The lid will go and suck down, and you're sealed. And then pressure canning is a whole different kettle of fish, because that's basically a humongous pressure cooker that holds jars. And so it creates.
And you don't want to use any pressure cooker that can't hold at least 6 or 7 jars. That your regular stovetop pressure cooker that your grandmother had, that you cooked your rice really quick, or the tongue that needed to be done.
Yep.
Yeah, but there's small ones that are for the stovetop to cook dinner, And then there's the big ones that you put jars in. But getting back to the water bath, any pot that can hold water and put 2 inches of water over the top of your jars can be used as a water bath canner. But now when we get to green beans, who the hell wants to eat some green beans that have been put in a jar and put into a pot and had been boiled for 3 hours, and then you take them out and you still got to cook them for 10 minutes more to be sure they're safe?
Yeah, because they're mush.
What the hell are you eating?
It's got to be. She ain't got no teeth, you know.
Yeah, well, if you got no teeth, it'd be good. But, I can't see water bathing anything for 3 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, it's bad enough
could
to
probably-
for 100 minutes.
Maybe tomatoes for tomato sauce. I mean, that wouldn't be a bad way to go.
You could probably consume those green beans through a swirly straw.
Yeah.
You know.
I guess if you put enough tequila on them, it'd work.
That's interesting. I appreciate the education because I've always been kind of intimidated by canning, and I've never really tried it because nobody wants to get sick, you know.
Well, if you want to get started on it, start looking at jams and jellies and applesauce and things of that sort. Those are really easy to do.
Crawl before you walk.
Virtually every recipe you find for jams and jellies. I mean, you go to the store and buy some pectin, and you open up the little piece of paper in it. It tells you how to make jelly, and you can't kill yourself on a berry, blackberry, raspberry, peach, apple, any of those jellies. You're not going to kill yourself. Not going to happen. When you get into the low acid foods, which are your green beans, your carrots, beets, broccoli, cauliflower, any of your meats, and I don't care whether you're talking pork or venison or beef or seafood or anything like that. Those are the ones that can get you into trouble.
Oh, you got a question, Roger.
Nice.
Tom out in the Bay Area. And by the way, Tracy's challenge got met. Thank you very kindly to Henry and to Tom. Tom jumped in and finished the other half of that. Canning question for Roger. How hard should you boil your water in a water bath canner for canning tomatoes? Is it like a gentle simmer or a full rolling boil?
Gentle simmer is fine. All you're wanting to do is keep your water if you're in the Bay Area, you're at sea level or under 1,000 feet. And so you're at 212. And it's just you need to have the bubbles continuing to come up, but it doesn't need to be full blown because then you got to start adding extra water to it and you got to have it boiling before you put it in and da-da-da-da-da. But no, just a slow boil, not just a simmer, but not a hard boil either. I mean, it needs to be boiling, but not hard boil, if that makes sense to anybody.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Now, about the pH, is that something that you just know what it is, or do you get pH strips and test it yourself?
No, you know what the pH of your product is.
Right. So it's nothing you need to test on any level then.
And an accurate test is virtually impossible in a home kitchen. I mean, you can get a pH strip and dump it in and check the color. And
yeah,
the rest of that
things are hard to determine anyhow.
But it's very inaccurate. Yeah. You can Google pH of peaches.
And it'll tell you, and
it'll tell you the range.
Yep.
Now, yellow peaches have a lower pH number than white peaches. And the USDA right now does not recommend anybody home canning peaches in the normal peach process because they are a low acid. The white peach is low acid. The yellow peach is high acid. So the high acid can go water bath, but the white peach has to be pressure canned. And that there's all this kind of, I mean, I just happened to get into it because...
Did you go to school for this or just read up, self-study on it?
Every state has what's called a land-grant university.
Mm-hmm.
And the land-grant universities run extension services. University of California, Davis is the one in California, and they really focus on winemaking and beef cattle and that kind of stuff. But they all run a program called Master Food Preservers, and it's like here in, well, both California and Oregon. I'm dual certified. It's a 9-week class, 8 hours on 1 day a week for like 8 hours for 9 weeks. And then you take a test, and then you get your apron, your name badge, and all that BS. And you learn all this stuff. And then part of the conditions are that you are now a volunteer for the cooperative extension number, and you go out and do workshops. And like a couple of Saturdays ago, I was over at the local hardware store. Wilco is the name of it, and I was testing gauges for pressure canners. And if the gauge is off by more than 2 pounds, then you need to buy a new gauge, and da-da-da-da-da. And trying to keep people from killing themselves is basically what we do. And since I had a big garden when I was living in California, I needed to preserve my excess. But I've been canning. I mean, my grandmother was married in 1899, and I remember making jams and jellies with her as just a little kid. And then we lived in the middle of nowhere up on 20 acres, no electricity, no running water for several years. And canning was the only thing we could do. So we had the Coleman stove and a big pressure canner and a big garden, and it's what we did. So, I mean, I have a history of it in my life.
There's a progress of food preservation through history that begins with salting and drying, basically desiccation, and goes through brining, pickling. We think of pickles as condiments and side dishes and stuff, but the fact of the matter is that was how you preserved food, so you would have food to eat in the winter.
You would pickle your sliced beef, wouldn't you, Bob?
Well, you'd pick it. And so we go from drying and desiccating and pickling, and then what is it, Roger, about 1840 canning gets invented?
Yeah, it was, I forget the time, but I think the beginning of it was when Napoleon wanted to feed his troops.
Yep. And then it goes, and by about 1840, it gets gone worldwide, and it makes it as far as, even, here, Appalachia.
And I think Pasteur was involved in it.
Well, Pasteur is lots of decades after Napoleon.
Well, but I think Pasteur was the one that identified why some things worked and why some things didn't.
Yeah,
but Napoleon was the one that wanted to send stuff to his troops. Yeah, and the original canning was in actual tin cans.
Yes.
And you would buy a machine that would seal lids on tin cans. And lady's house I cleaned out many, many years ago, but she was a Mormon, Native American, Depression-era lady. And she had a 3-bedroom house that only had little aisles everywhere. And then she built another 3-bedroom house and filled it up with food. But I got jars from hell out of that place. But she had she had the cans, and she had the machine for sealing the cans. And a lot of the stuff she made was in the tin can number, which was in the 30s. It wasn't jars. It was actual tin cans that you canned up. And
they would self-seal as you cooked them.
Well, what happens is, whether you are dealing with a jar with the flat and the ring or the tin can, they're sealed in such a way with the rubber seal that as they heat up, the air exhausts, the steam exhausts, that kind of thing. And then when the temperature cools down, there's the rubber that sits down onto the jar and creates the hermetic seal. And so now you have the vacuum in the jar. but you need to make sure there's some way for the excess air when it heats up to vent out. And then it's not allowed back in. And that's one of the reasons for the 2 inches over the jars when you do a water bath, is so that it bubbles out under the water. And then as soon as it starts to suck down and you turn the temperature down or off, that the lid with the little rubber ring sits on the rim of the jar and sucks down, and the water is harder to suck in than air, and therefore it creates the seal. And then you store your product without the rings, so if something does go on, that the lid will pop off and be loose, and
you'll know it's not fit to eat.
Yeah, I mean it'll spoil, and you just look at the jar and go, "Oh, this one's bad."
Out.
But
Tom said thanks.
Okay.
He said we'll be canning tomatoes in a few weeks.
Tomatoes are one of the easiest things to do, but you should put a little bit of citric acid or a little bit of vinegar or a little bit of lemon juice in the jar.
Just to raise the acid content.
Yeah, to raise it, because a lot of, if you're going to Safeway and buying your tomatoes to can, the modern hybrids you get in the grocery store were bred for shippability and all ripening at the same time for mechanical picking, and they didn't pay too much attention to the acidity. But if you're doing the heirloom
garden
tomatoes that are picked ripe, you're fine. But don't go out after a frost and figure you're going to can those up, because as soon as they get frosted, the pH goes sky high.
Wow. Now, does that affect the pH at
Salsa?
all? No, salt.
Salt does not. Salt is always an option. It is not necessary in canned foods. It's a flavor enhancer, and you can leave it out or put it in to your taste. And I don't care whether you're doing meat or tomatoes. It doesn't matter. Salt is not a necessary item for canning.
Yeah, because when you read the directions, it always says, quarter teaspoon of salt, whatever.
Yeah, that's your taste buds, nothing else.
Yeah. There's nothing better than canned tomatoes for making chili or, spaghetti or something in the wintertime. Nothing better.
Well,
but I didn't realize it was that easy either. I thought, you had to be foolproof,
Well, tomatoes, I mean, if you're growing them in your backyard and they're heirloom-ish varieties, you got no problem. I mean, actually, there are people for years and years and years did a process they called open kettle. And that is, you just heat you cut up all your tomatoes, you put them in a pot, you bring them up to a boil, you have your hot sterilized jars, you ladle in your tomatoes, you wipe the rim, put the lid on, screw down the ring, and let it seal all by itself. And people did that for years and years and years and years with no other processing. That is no longer recommended. It's always recommended to do a 10, 15-minute water bath, boiling water bath, on your tomatoes to help create the vacuum and suck the lid down tighter.
I was always, as a kid, I was agnostic about tomatoes, in large part because, what you got were those little baseballs that get shipped up from Florida that don't have much tomato flavor. I don't get tomatoes on sandwiches out in commercial places because 9 times out of 10, they add nothing to the flavor profile. But when my mother, I remember being a little kid, and my mother was canning. She'd raised tomatoes in the backyard down in Alabama, and she had all her tomatoes getting there ready. She'd washed them and everything, and we were going to can tomatoes, and she scalded the skin off of them.
Yeah.
It just boop into the boiling water, and the skin just comes off. And I remember picking up one of those tomatoes that the skin had been scalded off of, and she handed it to me with a salt shaker and said, "You say you don't like tomatoes."
Mm-hmm.
And just salted a part of that tomato and said, "Just take a bite." And it's been a love affair ever since.
Oh yeah.
There's nothing, and You know, people forget tomatoes aren't vegetables.
They're a fruit.
They're berries.
Yeah.
And they're and in their fresh form, they're magnificent. One of the things I love that she used to make, and I haven't had it in ages, tomato preserves. You know,
I've never made them, but I've heard of them.
Oh, they're magnificent, Roger. You can use yellow or red. You know, they're sugared just like like strawberry preserves or any other thing. They're sweet, and the recipe I had that she used, you put a little bit of lemon zest and some really, really thinly sliced ginger, and it just makes it makes something magnificent on a. The other thing she made was salt rising bread, and that is the stinkingest stuff you ever smelled. But my God, is it good to eat?
I've got a question about canning, and I'll never do it, but when I was a kid, my paternal grandmother, who lived next door, had a couple of damson trees in the backyard, and she every year would make damson preserves, but she didn't use like ball jars, okay? She used cleaned standard jelly jars, and she would put paraffin. I don't know what the procedure was because I never watched her do it, but she'd give you a jar and you'd open it and there'd be a layer, maybe an inch thick, of paraffin over top of the preserves. How does that, is that something that's recommended in today's world, or is it better to go with a jar designed for canning?
It's no longer recommended, but there is a way to do it. And that is you fill up your jelly jar. I mean, it could be a drinking glass, whatever. And you put on a thin layer of paraffin, let it cool. And then you take a string and you lay it on that line of paraffin. And then you pour a second layer of paraffin on, which helps you get that paraffin off. The first layer of paraffin, when you put it on, as it cools, it shrinks.
Yeah.
And it gives a little gap between the jar and the jelly, jam, whatever it is. But that second layer will fill that gap. And if you want to be really good, you put a third thin layer on the top to seal it all up. Jams and jellies are very low in what's called water activity level. And that's the free water that's available for bacteria to grow in. The cottage food production laws in California would allow me to sell jams and jellies home done in my kitchen, but not allow me syrups, because syrups have a higher water activity level and therefore are potentially a problem. But
Yeah.
Jams and jellies, because they're gelled, the free water isn't there. But the paraffin sealing was fine, except for the fact that every once in a while it would leak up through and some mold would get on the top of the paraffin. And what they discovered is that when you pull it off and just get rid of the mold that's on the surface, the mold sends roots down into the jelly. And even though you can't see them, there is a potential for a problem with the roots of the mold.
Oh, wow.
But I don't think anybody had ever died from eating molded jelly. It's the wrong kind of mold to cause you problems.
Now, hold on. Are you telling me I was taking my life into my hands with those syrups, Roger?
No, because they were done correctly. They weren't paraffin sealed.
I know. I'm just
those
busting. Those syrups were magnificent.
No, they were just basically a cup of juice to a cup of sugar and heated up to about 218 degrees so they didn't get to the gel point, which is 220, and put in a jar and put a lid on and then water bath for 10 minutes and sealed up.
No, I eventually did the sourdough pancakes, and I was right. It was.
I heard that last week.
Yeah. Oh my God. It was everything I dreamed it would be.
Yeah. I can make some good shit when I put my mind to it.
Yeah, well, your mind was well put to it. Hey, it's been a fantastic conversation, but we're out of time. So we'll hopefully continue this into the next week. Thank you for that encyclopedic recitation of knowledge and wisdom, Roger. I really appreciate that. I know a lot of people got a lot of good use out of it. Makes me wish I still had a tiller so I could have a garden. Well, maybe yet. One of these days. Who knows?
Well, I have 12 Getaoka salmon squash growing in the yard right now.
Oh, those are so cool.
12 big squash.
And there's no other program on the face of the earth that has this sort of content. I mean, this show has something for everybody, from Cher's outfits that still fit, to a review of the Rolling Stones at the Rose Bowl, to home canning tips. Jesus, I mean, it's something for everybody there.
Well, it's been a quiet week on Mount Colby Gone. You guys have a wonderful evening and a great weekend.
You too. Thank you, Bob.
Have a good one, Bob.
I will post if the hickory smoked pork fried rice is as good as I expect it to be. There will be food porn photos.
Fantastic.
All right, you guys have a wonderful weekend. Thanks to everybody who keeps the program going. Thanks to all of you who share your precious finite time engaging with the program. Thanks to our all-volunteer staff. Thanks in the chat room this evening to Steve and Sparky and Brother Deacon Asa. Thank you for moderating the Extraordinary Ordinary Roundtable again to Sparky. Thank you to our news ninjas. Thank you, Brother Deacon Asa over at headon.live for all he does to keep that up and running and going, and being the handy-dandy little one-stop shop for all things horn that it is. Thank you to John Fox in Australia. John's researching possible workarounds on some of the little issues we've identified with the new road rig that otherwise sounds so very good. Thank you to Ben Birch, whiterosesociety.org. Thank you to the hardest working, bravest people I know, the men and women of Coal River Mountain Watch, CRMW.net. 20 years at the forefront of the struggle for human rights and environmental justice in Appalachia. And always, 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 Gina, it's all for you. Have a great weekend, everybody. Later.